Yeah.
No, there you are.
Now you are.
There we are. All right. Good morning. Welcome to the Panama City Commission meeting for May the 12th. It's already May. Thank you so much for attending this morning. It's rainy outside. It's dreary, but we appreciate you attending. We're going to start off with an opening prayer by Dr. Haley, Senior Pastor of New Covenant Church of God in Christ, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Josh Street. That's opposite Granger. Please rise.
Bless you. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come this morning. We come before you with grateful hearts and humble praise. We thank you for the gift of life, Lord. Thank you for the city of Panama City and for the privilege to gather in service to this community. Lord, your word declares that everything that hath breath, praise ye the Lord. And so we pause this morning to honor you, to give you glory and thanksgiving for your goodness and God for your mercy. Lord, we praise you as our source of wisdom, peace, and strength. We thank you for every family in this city, for every worker, for every student, senior citizen, first responder, EMT, police officer, and firefighter, for every public servant who labors for the good of others. Even in difficult times, God, you have sustained us. Lord, you've guided and blessed us beyond measure and expectation. Father, we ask now, God, we ask now your blessings upon this commissioner meeting this morning. Grant wisdom, clarity, fairness, and unity in every commissioner, administrator, and community leader that's present here today. Let each decision be guided by integrity, compassion, and sincere commitment to serve people. As your word declares, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. May that spirit of unity and service dwell among us, God. Remove confusion, calm division, and cast out any and all selfish ambition. Instead, grant these your servants cooperative spirits. And as you gave to Solomon an understanding heart to lead with discernment and grace, give to them. Lord, we're gathered not only to conduct the business of this meeting, but also to give you thanks for what you've already done among us. We thank you for the doors you have opened, for the progress made in this city, and for the strength you've given us to keep moving forward. Teach us to do more than complain, Lord. Make us people who will encourage, uplift, and labor together for the common good. Lord, make us one. Make us one in mind, God. Lord, make us one. Make us one in spirit, Lord. Lord, make us one. Make us one in heart. And now I pray, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please face our flag and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Mayor Branch,
Present.
Commissioner Hughes, Commissioner Lucas,
Present.
Commissioner Granger will be late, and Commissioner Street.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
You've received the meeting minutes from April 28th. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas.
Yes.
Commissioner Street.
Yes.
Mayor Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, item 11D, as in Delta, staff have requested this be moved to the May 26th commission meeting. Again, item 11D as in Delta.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to identify for the moment, I can't find it, 11B, as a possibility. I'd like to remove it, but I said to staff yesterday after we're done with the presentation, if you would allow us to have that discussion removed, because I think I'm thinking that the presentation will trigger here saying, oh, yeah, maybe we do need to take that off for the moment and go through the rest of the lots. It'll make sense after the presentation.
Yeah, I
If that's okay to leave that open until
Yeah,
then.
I think we leave it on there, and we
Okay.
just kind of note that we might push it forward, yeah.
We might take it off, we
Totally.
might not.
Yeah, introducing new information.
I would suggest, I would recommend that we take it off, but I don't know that I'm gonna get that right now.
Yeah, I'd like to discuss it, and if there's new
Doesn't need to
information,
be
let's,
on there.
we don't want to make snap decisions, so any other deletions or modifications? Or do you want to separately vote on each modification suggestion? You want to do that?
Say that again, please.
Well, we have a staff addition or modification, or deletion, excuse me. Do we want to vote on this separately? And we have one from Commissioner Hughes.
No,
Is
I
there
think we
action
can,
from Commissioner Hughes?
He said he would like to see 11B removed.
No, I said 11D.
He said 11B.
Oh, okay.
Right, and the reason I said, I'd like to remove it just up front, but but the presentation that we're gonna do today is gonna discuss lots and selections, and I think it will show that 11, that we probably need to take that off because we're not ready for it yet. However, I want to leave that up to the commission to make that decision afterwards, if they chose
Could we
to.
combine 11B with 9A at the same time?
Or with 9A. Oh, and have the
We could,
discussion.
yes, sir.
All the same time, all the
Yeah,
properties?
all the same thing.
We should-
or just move it up to after
Okay.
9A, make 11B 9B,
Yeah, we can do that.
so that it doesn't get lost in,
Yeah.
11A
Discussion.
up to 9B.
11B.
11B, excuse me, up to 9B.
yeah. Because I have a question about how that got separated from the batch
Yeah.
anyway.
Makes sense. Any other additions, deletions, or modifications? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve those amendments?
Second,
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes,
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Sign up for city alerts and receive updates straight to your inbox or phone. From road closures and project updates to boil water notices and more, we'll keep you informed year-round. Scan the QR code or visit panamacity.gov to sign up today. The city will host a series of tree giveaway events in 2026 to restore the urban canopy lost after Hurricane Michael. The next giveaway is Saturday, May 16th at H.D. Mathis Park from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. or while supplies last. Bay County residents can receive up to 2 trees per household. The tree choices for this giveaway will be mulberries, winged elm, and tulip poplar. The Panama City CRA, in partnership with the Incremental Development Alliance, is hosting small developer meetups each month to help aspiring and emergency developers learn, connect, and grow through expert-led discussions and networking. The meetups will occur on the third Tuesday of the month through September at MySpace Downtown, at 97 Oak Avenue, beginning at 5:30 p.m. in the evening. The next meeting will be a week from today, Tuesday, May 19th. As a reminder, the City of Panama City has implemented an automated speed enforcement program in 11 school zones to improve safety for students and families. Staff. At this time, drivers who exceed the posted speed limit by 11 miles per hour or more in an active school zone will receive warnings. Full enforcement, including the $100 notice of violation, will begin next Friday, May 22nd. For more information about the program, visit our public safety page at panamacity.gov. Get ready for an unforgettable summer at the MLK Junior Rec Center. We're rolling out a full lineup of exciting camps, programs, and special events for summer 2026. From creative adventures to outdoor fun, there's something for every youth to enjoy. Registration is opening soon, and many programs offer scholarships. Scan the QR code on the screen or visit panamacity.gov for the full lineup. Applications for the Summer 2026 World Changers Neighborhood Improvement Program are closing soon. Applications will be accepted through the Panama City CRA until May 31st. Eligible homeowners in the Downtown North and Millville CRA districts can apply online at panamacity.gov. All city offices will be closed on Monday, May 25th in observance of Memorial Day. Garbage collection services will run as usual. Regular business hours for the city will resume on Tuesday morning, May 26th. That's That's all the announcements, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I had a conversation with staff yesterday, and Jared, did you go and check the video like was spoke?
I was not able to last night.
Okay. So Red Speed's coming up for activation, and I've been very involved in this. And yesterday with staff, I discussed that on the fly, if y'all remember, we changed the contract, that we didn't have to pay to take the infrastructure out, it's 30 minutes, as well as when we got to the end, we were going to examine the data to look at if we needed it on during the day, if y'all recall. I can personally attest to that they give you a warning when you're 1 mile an hour under the posted speed limit and you are in a speed zone when school's not out, I mean, when school's in. So I did get a warning. And that is not a beef here, that is just, that has happened. But it's the part of this that bothers me. There was no children out, and they're giving that's the money grab part of this. I'd like for us to follow through what we said we were going to do, and that was at the end of this, look at the data, and let us know which schools we're going to turn on and off during the middle of the day only, before and after school we'd all agreed on. Is that something that we want to wait on? Do we want to turn it on for the last week of school? Or do we want to wait till the next year and gather all this data? But that's a conversation because of the slide I think we need to have now, unfortunately.
Yeah, this should have been inserted as an agenda item. so.
It should not have been, the slide should not have been on there, in my opinion. We had that conversation yesterday.
What would be a great, should we just vote to add this as an agenda item? Can we do that now, or do we want to postpone that to our workshop, or what's the best way to have these
Or
questions?
what if we
answered?
get an update next meeting and put it on that?
It comes
Does
on
that
the
work?
before the next meeting.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, it's supposed to go live ticketing on the 21st. Staff can postpone that with your direction. What I read in the minutes wasn't clear, and I have not watched the video back, sir, so I apologize.
So I think what my apprehension is ensuring that before we start writing tickets that they have met the contract, that we are following exactly what they're supposed to be doing, that they're ensuring that they're following exactly what we agreed to. And I think that's the concern that Commissioner Hughes has, and I agree. We want to make sure that anyone that sends the contract fulfills the contract we've agreed to. So can we get an update from staff via email before the at least 5 days before, so that we can call a special workshop if we don't like the update that we're receiving?
We can do that,
So is that agreeable?
That'll work.
What's the timeline? What does 5 days before put us?
5 days was an arbitrary number that will give us time to schedule a special workshop if the update is something that we all kind of don't like.
I'm sorry, I'm just
The
asking about the.
16th.
Oh, what day?
16th.
Yeah,
It would be the 16th.
Yeah,
so that's Saturday.
that has us.
So,
Yeah, that means we can get it on Saturday.
we leave
potentially. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But we could call a special workshop. Okay, how about we get on Friday, so we could call a special work on Saturday if we needed to, something like that.
15th?
Yeah.
Will we have the data before then?
No.
I don't know, I'll check with the vendor, they're pretty responsive, I might be able to have that data.
How about this? We probably got enough right now, by the end of this week, somewhere, that you can pull, and you can give that to us.
Yeah, I've got near 6,000 warnings already, so.
This
we
isn't
can
about
get-
how many, it's about during the time.
I
Okay?
realize that, sir.
That's right.
So we should be able to have that data pretty quickly. It's just getting it
Why don't you
organized.
pass that along to us, please?
Yeah,
so it goes live on the 21st?
correct.
So if we want to act on it, then a workshop wouldn't allow us to do
And I
that.
tell you what, here's what we could also do. There's not very many weeks left in school. We could just continue to warn until the end of school, analyze what we have, and then do an extended warning campaign ahead of school for the next term. And that way everybody's refreshed and it's not just 1 week of ticketing and then we go dark for the summer and then we just go live 30 days in advance to the school zones activating in the fall. And that way we've got another 30-day warning period and then we begin live ticketing. That gives us plenty of time to do the data analysis and provide that info to y'all, and we could do that.
I like,
That would be great, I would love that, yes.
Just the
And
question
Red
does-
Speed's,
Yes.
Red Speed's contract does stipulate that when their contract start date is when they issue the first live ticket, so the 3 years would just be deferred until the fall.
and so taking the action you just suggested does not put us in any contract
I don't believe it will. We'll confirm with the vendor. If that changes, we'll make contact with y'all, and that might be the need for a special workshop.
And I would bet Greg would do that from Red Speed.
I mean, they've been very, very flexible to the point where they've upgraded technology in mid-install to, I mean, they've been very, very good to us.
Okay, do you need a motion for,
It would be helpful.
okay, do you have a motion to delay the?
I'll make a motion that we delay the start of active ticketing for the rest of this year, keep it in warning status for the red speed zones, and by the end of the year, by the end of the warning period, the school year, let's get the data to the commission so that we can sift through to analyze on the middle part of the day.
So if I were to repeat your motion, that would be to pause implementation of live ticketing until the beginning of the fall term.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
We are in the presentation by the PrAC committee. Come on down, Mr. Brown.
Morning.
Good morning.
Well, I am fresh off honeymoon to Croatia, and so I'm ready to go, rocking and rolling. So we've got 10 minutes. We were going to get going. I am Ethan Brown.
You go down to the sea,
Do what?
you get down to the ocean.
It was a little cold.
Yeah.
The Adriatic does not get warm until August.
That's right.
We found that out the hard way. So I'm Ethan Brown. I'm the chairperson for the PrAC committee. We've got Ron Gabaldon, who is representing Ward 3, and Nancy Hudson representing Ward 4, and I'm representing Ward 1 in attendance for today. So over the last 6 months, 7 months, we've been, I would say, fairly hard at it to give y'all what we believe is a recommendation for the Parks Department so that y'all can make the best decisions that y'all can with the information provided. And so the three, I have the clicker. So we were appointed in June 2025. We really officially started August, September area. And the three primary bullet points that we were tasked with was designating premier parks. Premier parks are parks that are utilized by more than just the neighborhood that it surrounds. And so think Oakland Terrace, think Oaks by the Bay, think Carl Gray, stuff like that. And where there's going to be people that are not just in the city of Panama City using it. For park realignment, that's essentially looking at, does the park serve the best purpose in what it does right now, and can it be better served doing something different in the future? And then for suggestions for park consolidation, that's a fancy legalese term for potential divestment or selling or liquidating. And so those are some of the things that we were tasked with. None necessarily had higher priority over the next. And so with this, we did public comment, and so the way we operated was if it was not an official inquiry, official survey, official recommendation, i.e. a Facebook comment did not count as a survey because what is documented is measured, and what is measured we can act on. If it's not documented through the appropriate processes, we entertained it, but we did not document it. And so we had, we visited all of the parks in the city, met with our legal department to understand when the city acquired it, if it was donated, if it was purchased, and all of the different things that go into city-owned properties. We held public meetings in each ward earlier in 2026. We conducted park-specific surveys to seek out, what did people want to know. And so we had 394 surveys completed through January 5th to March 4th of this year. And as you can see, these are the top number of parks that had public input through the survey platform. And so I thought, I thought it was a little intriguing that the skate park had the largest number of public input. And so next up, under the PCR's department, there's 53 total sites under care, and 38 of them are a designated park. And so with that, 25 of them have some form of restriction, whether it's a deed restriction, a grant restriction, or a wetland or waterfront location. And waterfront location is more emphasis on water access, and that is something that is going on to the city's comprehensive plan. And so when we think of one of the things we were tasked with is that for populations of our size, it is recommended to have 16 parks for the population that we have. I'm not great at math, but if 25 of them out of 38 have some form of restriction, it makes it extraordinarily difficult to get it down to a hard 16. And so we have to work with what we've got. Not saying that anything is impossible, but it's extraordinarily challenging to go from 38 to 16 in a short period of time and without pitchforks and torches being lit. And so we have 38 parks out of this, but the acreage, if you can see, of the 16 parks and the median for the national average for the National Recreation and Parks Association standards, there's 368 acres and we've got 240. And so that just means we have a lot more smaller pocket park areas than other communities of our size in the country. Playgrounds is recommended to have 12. We've got 7 with a couple that are in the works. Basketball courts, we have 3 with 1 to 2 that are in the pipeline. Diamond fields, that's going to be baseball, softball in nature. The recommendation is to have close to 12. We've got 8. Rectangular fields is 10, and we've got 3. Tennis courts, 6. We're on par with the tennis courts. We used to have more, but as parks gradually evolved to serve the community's needs, it shrunk down. Dog parks, we have 1. Swimming pools, we have 0. Skate parks, 1. Pickleball courts, we have 5 with 2 in the works. Walking loops, we have 3. And disc golf courses, we have 1. And so with this, we had to address the potential impending budget cuts if the state moves forward with removing homestead property taxes. And so that is something that we're cognizant with, saying, hey, if we don't want to increase our taxes, we got to figure out how to cut costs. And so these are the 4 areas that we were looking at of how to save money, not spend money, all these different things. And so the first one is implementing Adopt a Park program that has been initiated in years past, but really bringing it on forward and truly executing it the way we want to. And that's going to be primarily for our pocket parks. And so think of a pocket park that only serves the neighborhood that it's next to, where other people in the community don't even know it exists. And so think Adams Park, think most of the parks in the Cove would fit this bill, where there are 4 parks in the Cove that if you go to somebody in Sweet Bay, they might not know they exist, or that they have access to it. And so then for our larger ones, we're going to recommend exploring sponsorships, investments at 11 of the parks. And so think something along the lines of the public sports park, where we get a private investment to help with the improvements, not necessarily giving them the park, but looking for outside investment where it increases the probability of generating some revenue and offsetting some costs for the parks that we know that we can't get rid of. And then as far as realignment, so we've got 6 parks that are up for realignment or divestment. That is something that could be operated on within the next 6 months. And then we've got 1 park that is recommended for public-private partnership, otherwise known as P3. That particular one is Chapman Park. I'll lead with that because there's only 1 on that list, primarily because it is an empty slate of land that has a designated parking lot, so it increases the highest probability of doing something correctly without removing something that somebody already uses, if that makes sense. And so that would give us a good exploration, focusing potentially on something more indoor in nature, but still offering those outdoor opportunities. And so when we look at the realignment recommendations, this one is Laney Rowe Park on Cherry Street in the Cove, across the street from Cherry Street Elementary. So this one is, it's wetlands with a couple areas of dry spots. And so we are recommending the wetland area be passed to Public Works because they are more, they have the equipment and the training to be working through wetland areas to maintain the landscape. The Parks Department will retain the uplands on Cherry Street, and that where, and then it just makes it to where the overhead is better utilized for the taxpayer. The next one is Ken Hammond's Walking Park. So this is also wetlands for the west portion of it. Ken Hammond's is on Lisenby Avenue behind the old Kmart. And so this was a walking park that was severely damaged from Hurricane Michael and has not been improved or remedied since then. The property to the right is a city-owned property, and so we're recommending the east side of the property to be conjoined with the housing department, and this would serve as an additional solution for affordable housing. Whittington Park is owned by the Department of Transportation. We maintain it. We are recommending divesting it to the DOT so that they can maintain it because it's their property. Can I keep going?
You keep going.
Yeah, do we need to vote on extending his time?
Well, it was supposed to be 10 minutes.
I know it's supposed to be 10 minutes. To me, this is such a sensitive topic. I think it should be a workshop.
I don't think that was 10 minutes, was it?
That was 10 minutes.
Was it?
I know.
Yeah, I know.
It was entertaining enough that 10 minutes flew by.
I'd like to hear some more.
You will extend the time?
Yeah.
5 more minutes? 10 more minutes? We will do
10.
10? All right. Do I have a motion for 10 more minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Please continue.
All right, moving forward. So this one here is the Main Street Kayak Launch. None of us knew that this was a park until we joined the park committee. And so this particular one is a property that the city owns free and clear. It is 2 parcels of land. It is next door to 2 commercial properties in nature that use the water. One is the, and I can't remember it, but it's the speedboat testing facility, not Suzuki, but the other one. That one. The one on the left is the Harder's Brothers Marine Construction. And so as you can see, launching a kayak next to a large vessel with who knows what is in the water, it doesn't necessarily provide safe, clean access to the water. And so we are recommending divesting this to one of the 2 property owners that is adjacent to it, essentially going to the highest bidder, whether it be for cash in hand or for improvements, in-kind improvements to the Bob George boat ramp. The reason why we are recommending having the funds go to the Bob George boat ramp is because it is a water access property, designed to be a water access property, and so we want it to make sure that the water access properties that is closest to it is maintained to the quality and standards that we prefer. And so the next one is Craft Field, and so this is a multifaceted recommendation that was definitely not taken lightly. And so one of our committee members, Shamika Arnold, is very entrenched into the youth sports in the Millville community, and allowed us some information that we don't have because we don't have kids playing. But with the Pee Wee football programs, with the Daffin Park and Craft Field being so close in proximity, there is. She has expressed that there sometimes is a little bit of beef that happens because everybody wants to have the upper hand, and so she was in favor of saying, hey, can we find another facility that's a little bit further away but still in Millville? So one of those is if we liquidate this, the recommendation would be to liquidate it to help with the affordable housing solutions, but using the proceeds not to go back into the general fund and hope that it gets back to the Parks Department is to provide immediate improvements to C.M. Kidd Harris, which was donated in 1934 by Mr. C.M. Kidd Harris. And we don't know for certain if we have contacts to their heirs, because if the city does not maintain ownership of it as a park, it goes back to the family's descendants. And so we're recommending using the proceeds from Craftfield to essentially turn C.M. Kidd Harris into a multi-purpose facility. And it's still in Millville, but it's far enough away from Daffin to where somebody can't walk down and pull out their phone and say, hey, all right, little Johnny's got this swing right that we can tackle against. And Alan knows exactly what I'm talking about. and so the reason why we're looking at C.M. Kidd Harris is because it is next door to Emmanuel Baptist Church that has a rather large parking lot. Because it's a rather large church, and so that opens up the opportunity to explore some partnerships with them to where we don't have to install parking at C.M. Kidd Harris, similar to what the city's relationship was with First Baptist and downtown. And so that's the general consensus for these two parks. I believe this is the last one. So Carl Gray Park. So this is at the base of the Hathaway Bridge next to FSU, Panama City, and Gulf Coast State College. This is a regional boat ramp that takes anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000 just for dredging the boat ramp, not to include any of the lawn maintenance and playground maintenance and so forth. This particular one is it's owned by the Department of Transportation. They lease it to the city of Panama City, I believe, for $1 a year in exchange for the city maintaining it as if it was its own. We have a lot of people who utilize this boat ramp who are not City of Panama City residents. And so we are recommending that we divest it back to the Department of Transportation or explore the Bay County government taking on that lease agreement with the DOT, so that it is a better, basically so that we're not paying for people in Lynn Haven and Southport to use our boat ramp. That's the ultimate objective. And so that it still would remain as a park, but not the city of Panama City covering the costs for other people who do not live in the city of Panama City. And if we are to retain ownership of it, we would consider, and so in the bottom right bullet point, we would recommend for any non-City of Panama City resident be charged to utilize the boat ramp.
I'm glad to hear somebody else has some logic in that pays for it. Yeah.
Lastly, that's just a lot of words. And so this is just final summary and findings. And so one of the things that took into consideration when making our recommendations, so once the city divests itself of a parcel of land, it will be difficult to acquire a parcel of land in close proximity to serve the future growing population. Reducing the number of parks does not necessarily equate to a reduction in maintenance costs. Those cost savings would be reallocated to other parks to provide a higher maintenance standard at remaining parks. And so, caveat in there, one of the things that we also are hopeful for is that if we reduce the number of parks, our hope is that we don't reduce the budget because there's a lower number of parks. It's that we can make the parks that we have left better. And then there are still existing parks that were affected by Hurricane Michael that have not been restored to pre-hurricane condition. And that leads to the perception that these properties are not going to be restored or that their value as a park is diminished. And so a lot of that, because there is state funding and federal funding still going into those restoration projects, part of that would be the encouragement of over communication that, hey, this particular park is getting funding, we're just working through the parameters to make it happen. There is a growing demand for sports practice and game field space with the absence of regional sports complex. It is vital to have more smaller park facilities and field space to fill the void, and that would be where facilities like C.M. Kidd Harris would come into play. because that's also one of the things we don't want to take away a facility that's being actively used and then say, good luck, hope you find something better. We want to make sure that we're still providing those bare necessities to our constituents. The city is at or below the number of park amenities per capita in relation to other cities of similar size. While the city has more than twice the number of parks recommended, it has more than 100 acres of less of parkland than recommended. And then to be competitive and continuing to attract new residents and commerce, the city may consider minimizing maintenance at certain parks rather than relinquish the land if possible, and that's the Adopt a Park program or sponsorships. All right. This page is left intentionally blank. All right.
Thank you. Comprehensive.
Yeah.
Fit 7 months into 18 minutes.
Thank you for your
Thank you
service.
so much.
That's a lot of work.
A lot of meetings. Any questions for me?
Did you consider, when you talked about finding other sites, we do have some extra land. We are land rich right now.
Right.
So have y'all considered identifying any of those sites to swap out just straight up before we start disposing of things?
We did entertain that topic, however, that was outside of the scope of what we were asked to do.
Okay.
And so we didn't want to go down the rabbit hole out of care and compassion for what we were doing. We wanted to stay to the bullet points that we were asked to do. And so yes, we did explore it at a 30,000-foot view, but if we went down that path, this report might not be ready for another 6 to 12 months.
Fair.
So we do recommend exploring, having another committee be launched, not necessarily us, but just in general, just to look at all of the land that the city owns, just to say what can be done with it in the future.
That might be being done now. The only thing, all your recommendations are great. The only one that I would temper against is a kayak launch at Asbel Park. That'd be a pretty big backup there, I think, potentially.
Right.
With all that traffic. So, but I mean, all your recommendations are great. You obviously well thought through, and considering the waterfront access points as well as the community gathering points, which are kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. But believe it or not, that waterfront, whether it's a small piece or a big piece, it attracts people.
Right, absolutely.
Couple of questions.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
mentioned 2 potential spaces for affordable housing at Craft Field, maybe turning that into affordable housing. I'm familiar with that site. I could see that. It's in the middle of a residential neighborhood. But the Ken Hammonds Park, how much is available there to even do that?
There's 2 acres where he's talking about behind to the right of Ken Hammonds, and it's on the, we're going to talk about that here in just a minute.
Okay.
We talk about disposing of that because of it's what needs to happen there.
Yeah, is it, well, we'll get to that. Is
Yes,
it
and
developed?
it's Gulf Avenue.
And on the Ken Hammonds Park, there is, if you, do you have that page pulled up in front of you? So,
Do we have that?
okay.
Yeah.
All right, and so this one here, and so this one's Ken Hammond. So so you've got the old Kmart on the top. So bottom is Ken Hammond's. On the right side is a rather large city-owned property. I believe that is 6
1321
acres.
Gulf Drive.
Yeah, 6 acres for Ken Hammond's, and then the larger piece of property that is vacant to the immediate right is owned by the city. More specifically under the Housing and Urban Development Department. And so that creates an opportunity to take the dry portion of Ken Hammond's. And with that, so that was also one of the things that we took into consideration is we find another way to honor Ken Hammond's service to the city if we remove this as a park. Because he did a lot of good work for the community, and so we want to make sure that his name is still honored somewhere in the community. We don't have an answer to that inquiry at this moment, but that would be the direction for this particular parcel of land.
Does Stephanie have any recommendations on how we move forward with these recommendations? Workshops? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to have this presentation put forward, and y'all hear directly from the committee and be able to ask any questions. But I think a workshop in the near future, and of course, Commissioner Hughes' point, this is all kind of connected, to a lot of different, moving parts with the city's, property around the entire city.
I think it's interesting to point out we have 53 sites and they only looked at like 9 going away. I mean, that's how important these parks are. It's great. Good job.
And also one of the things in the, so I'm trying to go back. So in the playgrounds, one of the things that we also did not take into consideration is a lot of the apartment complexes that when they are built, they're required, in some cases, they're required to provide some form of playground amenity for the children. And so if you scale that down, if you take the population around a playground in an apartment complex or a playground in like an HOA like Sweet Bay, where they have to provide certain things, and ultimately that's what the Cove was. It was just Sweet Bay 75 years ago, where all of the parks in the Cove were developed by the developer. That eventually became city-owned. And so when we take the population down, the number of playgrounds for the populations that are not in an HOA or an apartment complex that has a playground facility, our number increases a little bit. I don't know if that algebra makes sense.
So you're talking about basically nexus and radiuses outside of
Correct.
that nexus. And
Correct.
so that was kind of my question. So thank you for doing this, putting this together and presenting today. I know that there was a lot of very robust discussion and this was not taken lightly. So I do appreciate your efforts and the efforts of everybody else on that board. But your key summary point, the very first one, is once the city divests itself of a parcel of land, it may be difficult in the future to acquire a parcel to serve a growing population. And so that's where can you expand on that? Because most of the growth in the city is happening in Ward 3, which has
Right. It
3
has the
parks.
least number of parks.
Yes.
Which is
And
why.
the least number of acreages. Yeah.
Right. And that's where, that was just one of the things that was mentioned to us from public input at our town halls, was community members saying, well, if you get rid of it, how do we get it back if we need it in the future? And so that was not necessarily our personal recommendations, but that's what community input provided. And we're relatively neutral in the city ownership of land, and so that was we're impartial to it, and I think it just happened to be the first one because it was typed up first. So and so these bullet points are not necessarily in higher priority over one.
Commissioner Granger, wouldn't, as the lands develop in Ward 3, parks be included? In as much as in your ward, there are fewer parks, but there's also the greatest number of undeveloped land.
Yes, I think it was more on the Cove can only grow so much. Mm-hmm. Right, I mean, there's only so much infill. And so when you're looking at a growing community, that would drive the need for more parks. That area would probably be ranked lower on where more parks would be needed.
Exactly.
So if you get rid of one in an older part of the city that is kind of constrained to growth, how does that impact the ability to gain one somewhere else is really kind of my question. It was more of a logical, like, I don't understand this.
I was
Yeah.
tracking.
Yeah.
Thanks for the answer.
So kind of the one-for-one replacement, if you will, if you've got a piece in Ward 3 that the city owns, there's a piece in Ward 1 or Ward 2 that.
I'm not saying there needs to be a
No,
one-for-one. I
but
was just,
I'm just trying to follow the logic. I like the idea because
Yeah.
you can, if it's not being used in a constrained area already, and we can open one up for growth, it makes sense.
yeah, but to Ethan's point also, with new development, you tend to be able to have these, arrangements with the developer and say, hey, you need to put in, park or a pool, put in some amenity there that we
Right.
don't necessarily have to control. So for
Right.
example, the parks in Sweet Bay are managed by the HOA. So the city doesn't, outside of providing water, that's it. They just provide water.
Right.
It's, there's nothing that the city is involved in with that. So when a piece of equipment breaks, the HOA pays for it and fixes it, right? Sidewalk breaks, the city, or the HOA comes in and repairs it.
Right.
So with that, I mean, there are some areas where the citizens are being served, but not necessarily by the city.
Right.
So as we move forward, I think that's a good idea to keep that in mind, that there already are some areas where citizens are being served and it's not being served by the city.
Okay.
Not necessarily being served at the city's expense, but it's being served as a result of the city's development code.
Yes.
Right.
And so,
Right.
an indirect service. So I would say that first bullet point on the parcel land, just mentally picture that in the middle of it, just as a, that way, it's just something to take into consideration in the workshops, but not necessarily the highest priority from this report.
I do like your comment, though, that there appears to be a demand for sports practice and game space, that we don't have the adequate number of facilities. And I would say that when we look at other communities, they tend to do a hybrid model where you have large, expansive areas for football, baseball, and those outdoor sports, soccer and whatnot. And then they'll tack on a small park next to it.
Right.
A great example, I think, would be oh my gosh.
Oakland Terrace.
Oakland Terrace, thank you. Where
It's home away
there's,
from home.
where you can go have, baseball, softball practice, and then also you have it's just a nice compound with multiple facilities on there. We don't do that very well elsewhere. And I would suggest that as we move forward, we do look at those kind of just community areas where people can go to and get all of the recreational needs met for the most part.
That's a good point. We actually don't have another facility complex like that in the city.
Yeah.
I appreciate all the work that you guys have done. Looking forward to doing a workshop on it. And I think that there's a variety of ways. I agree with Commissioner Granger's points of we are underfilled. I mean, I think that was very clear from you guys' analysis. How we get there, it could be through sports complex. It could be through partnerships with elementary schools, with other things. There's ways about going about that could produce some positive results. But I do think the next best step is a workshop for us to kind of discuss and move forward with action.
When do you want to do a workshop?
June.
Do we have an agenda for the next virtual workshop?
Yeah, we do for June 1. I believe that's a Monday, but we could do the second one in June. I don't believe we have anything planned for that one just yet.
I would like to do this one in person if possible, because it's very difficult online for
Me
us
too.
to.
So let's just shift the virtual to in-person.
That'd be
Absolutely.
June 15th.
June 15th?
Here
Juneteenth.
or downtown?
Probably in room 10.
Okay. Did you
Thank you very
explore
much.
any from the Adopt a Park, or one of the things that we do right now is that we voluntarily, you can give $1 on your water bill. And what I've learned is that people don't want to give it because they don't know where it's going. And so I've asked if you knew that, and I live in the Cove, so I'll use it. If everybody there, there's 2,200 homes, knew they were giving $1 a month, that's $2,200 a month, it's all going towards those parks.
Right.
Would they feel okay with that? And that was a resounding yes. But, and the reason I asked different people was, what I've learned is that people that didn't know a park existed in their neighborhood, and the idea of a park going away, now they've come and they have, what do you mean you're going to close this? You didn't even know where it was. But that's their park, okay? That's my park, it's their park. And so if they're willing to come out of the woodwork to defend it, let's pay $1 for it, it's $12 a year. That's an option.
Right.
I'm not saying that's what we need to do, but did you explore other ways? Because parks, ladies and gentlemen, cost the city money. They're a quality of life, but they cost money. Is there a way to get some buy-in other than corporate sponsorship of the community? How did you explore that or look at that?
Yeah, so that was definitely one of the things where we did, we used the Cove as our example there because it's primarily pocket parks and not necessarily a regional or premier park environment. And so and so that was one of the things we explored was like, hey, what if the Cove created their own park HOA? Something along those lines, and then, or a group of families that said, hey, we're going to, the city will cover the once a month, lawn maintenance, but then a group of families that may have the equipment or the resources can come in and help with the additional, beautification and maintenance. So there's no adopt a park option that's off the table.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Awesome. June 15th.
There you go.
The conversation continue.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion, or we
Thank you
good?
very much.
Fabulous.
We are in, nothing else? Okay, we are in audience participation. As a reminder, these meetings, we talk about agenda items. So as you come up and discuss, please identify agenda item that you're wanting to discuss. No more touching your mic.
Just leave it down.
As you come up, please identify which agenda item you're speaking on and who you are and where you live. And Commissioner Granger shall not touch his mic the rest of the meeting for the benefit of all of us.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Walter P. Henry, 614 Maple Avenue. I believe the state would try to play the same game that y'all was trying to play with Cargrave Park, Whitaker's Park. Y'all have utilities running in both of those parks on their property, what you're saying. So the city could be, they can make you move those properties. You want to play that game, they can make you move them, get them off their property. You don't want it. Cargrave Park been there for many years. The city maintained it for many years, no problem. Then you put good equipment in it, get a good boat ramp put in it. Now you got a problem. You got a problem with other parks. You got a problem with Whitaker Park. They got utilities run through that park, through that piece of property. That don't belong to the park. Telephone company got run through there, goes underneath the water. City water line comes in across that park. Y'all done put all this other stuff on that park. Now we got a problem. Lism Avenue, that thing was a ground low area. Anybody put anything there, they got to build it up. Put in the houses there, you got a ditch going across through there. Think about it. And we heard y'all talking on last time we was here, talking about the dollar money that y'all got on our water bill. Talking like you go just make us pay that dollar. Some of these parks, my children ain't never been in them. How you gonna find out who using them that's in this city? You got somebody out there asking everybody to walk in there? Are you a part of the city of Panama City? You go to Lynn Haven, do Lynn Haven ask you, are you a part of the Panama City? No, I doubt they do. But now we done got that we cannot share. I've been in race as long as all my years. Now, it's things that we do. We wasn't used to able to even get into. I went through the back door, my own doctor's office. Couldn't go through the front. I went to a restaurant, buy stuff, could not eat it in the restaurants. This racism need to get over with. Now, don't try to make us do stuff that you make us pay $1.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We're not, we're not willing to do it.
Yes, sir.
We'll do it if you go take care of the parks that we're in. Y'all don't take care of our parks.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Anyone else will make comments on today's agenda? Please come forward. Good morning.
Morning. Eric Thomas, 1100 West 10th Street. The parks are a quality of life issue, and you're mad race to the bottom to try to take away value from the people that live around those parks. You have not considered reducing their property taxes. The people that live right next to a walking park, when that walking park disappears and is filled with high-density housing, and there's no swimming pool or anything for the people in that housing development, which is what you see, the older buildings were built with amenities. The newer ones, just high density. You don't come down to Panama City, the city of trees, to sit next to a bunch of high-density housing. Why would people move here? Why would you buy a house here if you have reduced the quality of life for the people that live here? And are you compensating the people who you are taking value from by taking away these parks? You had millions of dollars on the table to do these parks, and you transferred it to the Martin Theater, where you have to pay $50 for a seat. That is not a quality of life. People don't move here for that. They move here to be near the water. And when they come here and use the boat ramp, they buy things. They stay and eat at restaurants. They put money into the community. When you take that away, what are you getting back? You also have 11B. I believe that's it's on 11th Street, is a low-lying area. The housing department has approved 350 housing in what used to be a drainage area, I think, if that is the parcel in question. 37 acres of drainage. When you take that away, the area surrounding that, who's going to pay to put in the drainage system that they need to put in after you take away what was there, a natural drainage system? When you fill that in, who's going to pay for putting everything back? You want to make some money for the city? Why don't you take away the area in St. Andrews where you own a bunch of lots, and the people, the businesses there, some of them, 3 of them, have to pay for their own parking, and the rest of them don't because we're paying for it. Why don't you sell those empty lots to the businesses that don't provide their own parking and let them build their own parking so we don't have to pay for it, instead of spending $1 million for an $800,000 piece of property and $20 million for a parking garage and another $20 million for a parking garage downtown? What about the quality of life for the people that live here that you're taking away without compensating, without reducing the property taxes on the people whose value is being stolen from them?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Anyone else? Comments about today's agenda? Yes, ma'am.
Happy Sunday, Fairland. I'm in the cold club, so I'm kind of mellow, all this sneezing. I agree with Dr. Haley. I do come to the dais, elected officials, with the feeling of gratitude. When I was doing my research last night, I realized that because of my street, which is adjacent to 3 parks, which is 1115 Fairland, I voted for you and you and you. I got to vote for 3 of you up there, and I have a great deal of confidence in what y'all do. My item today, in case I won't forget, is if these lands are sold, the 8A or whatever y'all just changed, will that money, one of the lines said go back into housing to replenish. So my question is, are we eligible for HUD funds? I love to read, so I started digging back about when President Kennedy started to form HUD, and it was actually signed eventually by President Johnson, and what the intention of it was. And Commissioner Robbie and I talked about this last week. I also go back and look at minutes. I look at minutes from the city of Panama City, the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, because this is a living document that kind of shows how people are thinking. And one of my concerns on putting the budget report from Jeanette on a consent agenda, it looks like we're not going to talk about it. Why is that on a consent agenda? Because we have this project 16% that Brandy was so accurate to bring out, to make the budget cuts at 16%. And for 2 years, I've been at the dais. I can go back and find my time codes saying, Where's the motion? Are y'all going to put back the reserve funds? Because we're in wartime. Y'all been pumping lately? The pumping of gas affects a lot of consumers. Will tourism slightly go down? Maybe a little bit because we're on such an upswing, but it's of concern to me. And then I enjoyed the park presentation so much. I think I have 2 drawings on those properties of housing, which I'm happy to share with the park committee. But I thought about the housing. When I worked here, I remember the original universe of people signing up for the down payment assistance was around 1,000. And then a few meetings back, I heard Assistant City Manager Jared say, our 30th. I remember that. He was like, our 30th, with a great deal of happiness and gratitude, and I support that. But if 30 out of 1,000 is a 3% conversion rate, I don't know if that's good. But I certainly would like to see some metrics and for y'all to have those metrics. And what is the delivery cost? What is the delivery cost? Is 3% good? Is it average? Because in the narrative on your agenda today, we have a Hallmark greeting card, tremendously successful. I don't even feel bad about who wrote that because I feel they were writing it from their heart. What bothers me is that someone approved to put that phrase on here. Tremendously successful does not help you make good decisions. Data does. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Anyone else want to speak on today's agenda? Seeing no more public comments, I'm closing public comments, moving to item 7, the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like us to just discuss the item. It's
Yep.
only one item on
Sure.
the consent agenda.
We have to have a motion and a second, I guess, to accept it.
So moved.
Yeah, do I have a second?
Second.
Now let's discuss it.
So we got to vote.
Well,
We got to vote to bring it off consent? Or no?
Oh, with a vote to bring it off consent, oh, wow.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
so
have
the
that
motion, the motion is to take it off the consent agenda so we can discuss it. Do I have a second? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Now do we want to discuss it? Do you want a motion to discuss it?
Yes.
Okay, so we want a motion to discuss it?
I don't think you have to.
No,
want
we
to?
took it off the consent agenda.
It's now a regular
All right,
agenda.
let's discuss it. Go for it.
Yeah. Just want to ask if there are any highlights that staff would want to draw our attention to.
Yep, I can highlight it. We also have Ms. Smith, our city clerk treasurer ex officio here, if you have any other further questions that I can't provide. As a summary, most of the funds are performing as expected. The fiscal year is 58.3% complete as of April 30th, 2026. Citywide transfers, debt service payments, and interest earnings have been recorded. There is a summary of each of the funds in the document. We're still, for the fund balance summary, we're still projected to be, if expenditures proceed with how they were planned, we would end up at 5.71% at the end of this fiscal year for our general fund balance. Are there any specific questions I can answer, or Ms. Smith?
The Environmental Services Fund seems to be a place we pick money out. What is that? What?
It's our solid waste fund. It's proprietary fund that charges a fee for service.
Okay. This is for the public benefit. And so that's a continuous, we're always raising money on that, and it has no restrictions on where it can or can't be spent.
Correct, it is a fee.
Okay, so we can use it, I can spend on another project that's outside of environmental services.
Yes,
fund.
you
Okay.
can.
The utilities fund, however, is not like that.
Correct.
It has to stay in that silo?
Yes, for the water and wastewater system.
Commissioner Hughes, the difference there is the Environmental Services Fund is a flat rate on everybody's water bill, and the Utilities Fund is an actual fee for use based on metered usage.
Charges.
Yeah, I'd like you guys to consider, as you're looking at the budget proposal, of using environmental services to actually boost the reserve number, because that's been the argument with having it in the reserve, or having the environmental services fund have so much money in it, because of disaster-related expenses, and that's exactly the reason why we have a reserve.
Are
So,
you suggesting that they that when they're calculating a reserve, that they include the environmental, not necessarily move it.
At least a significant portion of it, because it is meant to be for emergency purposes, is why it is there. And so that, to me, is the exact reason why we have reserves.
I think
as
that's
well.
reasonable.
So do you restrict it, or do you actually physically move the money from one to the other?
I'd leave that recommendation to staff, but I mean, you could physically move it into the reserves because there are no restrictions on it.
And has it been that way in the past, and then after the storm, we just kind of opened it up to move it away from the reserve?
I think his point is that we're setting a requirement on ourselves and the staff to
Right.
have a specific reserve amount.
Right.
And in the past, environmental services money has not been included in that percentage.
Okay.
Right? So it's kind of like, hey, I have a bunch of money in my savings account, but because it's not my money market account, I don't consider it my emergency fund, if you will.
Gotcha.
And I think that's a very, very good point. I think we should consider it as part of our reserves. Because some of this is preparation, and another part of it is messaging, because citizens want to know, does the city have enough money if we do get hit with another issue? It doesn't have to be a natural disaster, it can just be an issue. And I think the answer to that is yes, and we need to do better still, but, because we're still recovering from Hurricane Michael, but I think we need to be able to tell the whole story.
And I think, Commissioner Street, I agree with you, and would ask that staff would let us know what kinds of things have been used in Environmental Services Fund, what expenses have been covered there, as a way of determining, we should be 10%, 50%, whatever, to inform our decision.
And then my other question is on the Marina Fund, since we don't have St. Andrews as a cost center anymore, does that change how we're going to address this fund?
It will slightly change. I mean, we'll still have the fund in our budget and still have to budget for. We still have expenses at St. Andrews Marina and Panama City Marina, insurance, security, I mean, things, we have stopped
At St. Andrews,
we
why
have
don't we-
stopped the security now since, but we did have it up until April 1.
And insurance.
And insurance, trying to
And
think what other
expenses.
costs.
That should be an income center, not a cost center now.
The Panama City Marina still has some expenses.
The St. Andrews Marina, not Panama City.
They're
They're all in
both
the
in the
same cost
same,
center?
they're in the same fund. Both marinas are in the same marinas fund.
Okay. Let's assume that both that marinas are run separately by either two different entities, whether downtown's run by, well, not by us, somebody's running downtown and somebody's running St. Andrews. Should that fund be the same? Since those-
It's still, the city has the marina fund as an enterprise fund, and whether we contract for service for one or the other, or currently right now, St. Andrews Marina is leased out, but we still have some cost. We still have a project that we're going to be doing as part of the Bulkhead and Upland project. So we still have cost, and we hopefully will have some revenue to come in to offset those costs. But then we also have the Panama City Marina as a separate cost center, so we keep them separate in terms of costing out, but both of them are in the same fund.
Okay, in the future, can you show us cost out? This,
We don't, on this
Well, you're
monthly
not going to on
financial,
this, yeah.
break out by cost center.
Right. But we'll have that in the budget.
You'll have it in the budget,
Okay.
and we can provide it if you would like it. We can go as detailed as you would like to see.
We'd just like to see what the loss is until we get going. You know,
By cost center.
by cost center. Not on each of these, just on the marina.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, do we want to accept the consent agenda, this item?
We already did.
We did.
You have to
No,
actually accept
we
it.
removed it off of
removed it.
consent.
Motion to
And now we have to vote to accept it.
Motion to accept.
Do I have a second? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Commissioner Hughes, we are on 8A for you.
Me?
Yes, sir, you're up.
So with the mayor's permission, I was I asked if I could put something together to bring back to discuss the 10 lots and the surplus disposition plan to begin with. On today, right now, we've got the Florida Housing Coalition is on Zoom with us, and I'm going to ask them to speak in a minute about this. But it's been interesting to look at this, and for those of y'all that don't know, I'm a real estate broker, so I'm nerding out on this and having a lot of fun with it. It's been interesting to me because we own a lot of dirt. And what this says right here is that with these 234 pieces, we have a rare opportunity to create a long-term strategy that really redefines housing, redevelopment, and neighborhood stabilization. And we are one of the very few cities in the state of Florida that have this opportunity. And when the statement of we got to get it right the first time has never been more accurate, I think, in this particular circumstance. But by doing it, if you notice, it gives us automatically, it creates predictability, consistent, transparent, and strategic. And those are 4 items that I really focused on because the public needs to know predictability when they're dealing with the government. In my world, the person who's buying needs predictability on what it costs, how the process is going to run, and that's our job to do that. Well, our job here is to have a plan that tells you, the public, and the staff how we can dispose of things. So what is it we're trying to accomplish? Well, what are our primary goals? Well, they are, in my opinion, and by the way, these are only recommendations today. These are how I think, and I just wanted to throw these out there for discussion, not necessarily for today. Affordable housing, is that a goal? Revenue, neighborhood stabilization, redevelopment, or a combination? Should all the lots be treated equally? Or should they be classified by location, size, redevelopment, potential market value, and long-term public value? For example, College Avenue. That's why I left it in there today, because I don't know that we're treating it equally by just selling it off. There might be something, a better purpose for it that we haven't identified. What level of affordability? Well, workforce housing, very low income, moderate income, owner occupancy, and long-term protections. Depending on how we address and identify the site, whether or not it's open market sale, potentially, or a partnership, those are going to change what type of use and what type of affordability level. Now, Janice and I have been very hard on why plan matters, because it gets us going in the right direction. But most importantly, it creates transparency. I cannot say enough how much I want the public to understand what we're trying to do, how open book I want to be with this. I know the commission does as well. We need all the questions that you can ask, because that means we're being transparent. We want to answer those for you. Clear expectations. Let's set it up the right way. We have a long-term plan. I will guarantee you, and there's not many guarantees in life, and there's none in real estate, but I will guarantee you that if we create the long-term plan up front, all of this will run very, very smooth. Without it, we will sit here and twiddling our thumbs, and we will have no accountability, because no plan, no accountability. And that is what creates lack of transparency. Finally, predictability of builders, for the builders and staff. The builders need to know what they're doing, and the staff needs to know how to operate it. And I'm sure that Mr. Self would enjoy some predictability as well in the entire process. And then final, better use of public assets. All 6 of those are accomplished in a plan. All 6 of those are easily understood in a plan. So, but most importantly, it takes away all the barriers, like us. It gets the city out of the way, okay? And the city needs to be out of the way. We need to have a plan, put it in place, and let the plan operate. And to me, that's that's the number one thing. Now, the Florida Housing Coalition, Sean has helped. I've talked with them and his whole team, and we engaged them for at least two opportunities they've been with us to develop a strategic framework for a disposition plan. It's to unlock affordable housing, commercial development, and serve the broader community. Just because something can be bought and built on does not mean it needs to be affordable housing. It can be something for the community to help the affordable housing component that we are also working with. Hence, that you'll have some open market sales. But first, we want to establish our policy with, in their opinion, set evaluation criteria, define affordability goals, and determine the disposition plan. And then finally, then move forward with the disposition. So, Sean, are you there?
Morning, yes, I'm here.
There we are. So, Sean, thank you, one, for your time, and I've asked him to be here today, and for purposes of technology, I don't know, I told Don it was okay if you're just on voice, not visible, because it was going to be hard to do that, and I'm a third grader when it comes to technology. So that's why he's not visible. But if you don't mind, would you help us out from the Florida Housing Coalition perspective, why a plan's important and why it's unique of what we have?
Certainly, and I would like to acknowledge Matthew Wyman, who's our Director of Permanent Affordability, who's also on the line, and he's been working very closely with staff as part of an initiative that's been funded by the legislature through the Catalyst program to help in developing a disposition policy. But it is definitely important, as you rightly stated, Commissioner Hughes, in looking for, a long-term strategy and looking at your land holdings. So, the properties you're considering, as well as, others, and how that can be utilized to support affordable housing development. Through the legislature or through statute, there are certain things you can do that's kind of laid out. I think it's pretty much three paths in terms of, looking at doing direct development, where the land should be sold or in the proceeds. And, so those are kind of the different things, or, also, looking at the size and whether it should go out to more of a RFP and looking at some of your bigger needs. So I think, before just kind of putting things, out, you really need to have a policy for staff to understand, when we get properties, we're going to look at these different pathways. And it's something that the commission has directed staff to do. And this is the framework, and things will work much smoothly and run much more quicker. And you'll have better results, and it won't be short term. It will be something that's long term and sustainable because the need is great.
Very good, very good. So I thank you. If you'll stay online, we might have a question for you in a minute. So here's the power of city-owned land. We can lower the cost of building because we can put the land in the deal. We can target where it needs the most. We can attract private investment, and we can build long-term neighborhood stability. It's kind of cool to think that over the next 10 years, you can transform the central part of Panama City. You really can. And that's kind of a cool place to think about. But, every parcel is a chance to change our community, one at a time. Here's what we're charged with. How to dispose of 10 identified lots. Which process to follow, or whether the lot should generate revenue, housing, or both. Okay? That's what we were asked to do. So, option one is the open market sale. That's your standard run-of-the-mill, sell a piece of property. We list it with, we've got a continuing contract with real estate companies. We list it with them at market value. Now, again, just to throw something in here, I put a timeline expectation because if I'm going to ask somebody to pay market rate, I don't know that there should be any restrictions on them other than what's allowable in the use. Direct proceeds would go to the housing fund in all of these. The advantages, it's fast, it's immediate revenue, it's simple administration, and it lowers the maintenance and insurance costs. I find it interesting to know that Sean has to pay insurance, general liability insurance, on all of these lots. Okay? So if somebody falls down and gets hurt. So every lot that we sell frees up a little bit of money for that. Considerations, revenue comes in, but there's a guaranteed affordable use. Possibly not. Limited long-term public benefit, and the city no longer controls the site. For some, that's a big deal. Option 2, builder RFP, housing partnership. Now, I'm still trying to work on how you do an RFP on lots that you're not either, you might be selling or you might be giving away as part of a deal, but do an RFP there. Builder receives the lot at a lower reduced cost and follows affordability guidelines. For example, maximum home sale price, minimum home standards, income qualified buyers, and owner occupancy guidelines. There are many more that we can put on. I'm not a big fan of restrictions, but at the same time, we are setting the rules to create a product that we're trying to establish, so we're going to have some. I would caution against deed restrictions. I would put them in an agreement of contract, because the deed restrictions will follow the land, not the deal. And that could hamper a possible deal. And then the third, the advantages here are produces affordable housing, encourages neighborhood reinvestment, supports workforce, and creates measurable public benefit and encourages local builder participation. Now, considerations, more staff oversight, buyer qualifications, timeliness to manage. That's a big one for me. We'll have to improve time. Ongoing compliance monitoring and affordability standards to define up front, be defined up front. Meaning, what are we going to do with the site? What are restrictions are we going to put on the site up front, as we've learned can change the value of the use. Option 3 is the hybrid approach, which is what I'm going to recommend that we do across the board. We select lots for market value. We reserve others for RFPs and affordable housing. And then the direct revenue sales go straight into to the housing department. That's what helps keep funding the housing department on the lots that we might do some splitting with from a development standpoint. Now, these are the lots that Sheila gave us, the 10. If you notice in the green under seller RFP, there's only one that's in the gateway. So it's not going to be a gas station and it's not going to be a pharmacy. But you can't do that there anyway because it's not deep enough and it's not long enough. But what's interesting here is these are ways that you can do this, and in 10 lots, it showed us why we need a plan. There's 3 different options here, and there's many different uses here that we can do, but I'm suggesting that MLK go through incremental development, meaning we hold on to it, we have some restrictions on it, and then we can either sell it or partner with that, ground lease it. We market sale 805 Northeast Avenue. We market sale, which is where Ethan was talking about, the property next to Ken Hammond's Park. That's the piece he's talking about. And we market sale 2215 East 3rd Street. All of that can be immediate money straight into the housing department. I'm going to tell you why it's important to go look at every site. And this is why we have to understand each site that we have. 3rd Street is a residential lot that you would think, oh, it's in Millville, we make it affordable housing. Except on 3rd Street, where all those cool houses are that are built, this is right next to one of those. The quickest way you want to make those people mad is to go build affordable housing right next to it, because they have you sell it and you try to replicate something like that. Gulf, it's got an access point off of Gulf and one off of, I think, 13th Street there. But it's something that can be sold to a developer, and they can do some non-affordable housing, but some housing. We actually have a full price offer of what we paid for 805 Northeast Avenue right now. We could sell that to the lady who has an unsolicited offer on it for what we paid for it. Okay, not bad, because most of what we paid for that was not worth what we paid for it. Okay, that's not a city problem. That's a across the board problem. So don't slam the city for overspending. People have experienced some loss right now since when they bought. This just gives you an idea of right now at 309 Elm. All of that was bought at one time. All of that is mostly together in a grid, but it's all in Millville. That is a perfect perfect. RFP, bid, do a project. 309 Elm could be a townhouse project. It's also got a building that could turn into an apartment complex. There's a lot there, okay? But at the end of the day, these are ideas that we need to come up with. This is just the beginning. We get to dispose of all of it or not dispose of it. We support affordable housing in a way that no other city gets to do in the state of Florida. That to me is really cool. Encourage redevelopment, strengthen our neighborhoods, and strategically use these public assets to revive and increase the middle part of Panama City, not only values, but a quality of life, living. We can fill in houses that haven't been there for 40 years. You know, we can make MLK come alive because we control and own more property on MLK from 231 to 11th Street than any other property owner. Let's make this happen. And I'm now on a crusade, by the way. I think this is awesome, and I love it. And we have the opportunity to change a lot. So I just wanted to give y'all this because we've been asked to get rid of 10 lots. Here's a way that we can do it. But I think we need to step back and say, wow, we got a lot to do here.
First, awesome presentation. Very fancy. I saw the transitions in there. Wow, nice work. Do we want to roll this discussion just into the next agenda item and not have two?
Yes, and it works with what Nevin had written up because 2 of his 3 things are on there. Yes.
Yeah, so let's just move to city attorney, item 9A, and we'll just
Robbie.
keep
Very
referring
good
back to the
presentation.
presentation.
Thank you.
Commissioners, agenda item 9A, what is a letter that I prepared? And the letter, it was just a restatement of something that I said at the last commission meeting when we had the roundtable discussion about housing, and essentially said there were 2 approaches it sounded like that you were talking about on the 10 lots. One approach is maximize, sell the property at market value. Retain, we have 3 realtors that we have contracts with and assign the property. The other approach was to use the property to actually put affordable housing on those lots and have the lots available at 0 cost, or another option is the cost that the city, actually the housing department has in it. I think that everything I said, Commissioner Hughes has picked up and then combined those 2 to, look at each lot and sum out of those 10. You don't do one for all. You decide which lot could be best sold for market value and which lots would you put in an RFP. So those are, I won't go into, I'm happy to talk about it in more detail. Also attached is a disposition draft policy that Sheila Ware with the city staff has been working on, and that is there in draft form that talks, and then also a survey of how other jurisdictions have attacked this issue. So all of that is there for informational purposes.
So now, does it make sense why I wanted to bring College Avenue into the conversation? There's a big piece, which by the way is I don't see it as a drainage area. I see it, I've visited the site, it's high, there's a wetland area, but I wouldn't call it a drainage area. But with that in mind, it falls into, we haven't identified what we want to do with it. We haven't identified what's the best way to dispose of it if we were to adopt some sort of similar plan like that.
Yeah, I think you touched on a similar thing that I have, which is, and the first 10 lots are an attempt to group similar type properties, and you've identified that some are not quite, isn't it like a Sesame Street, like one's not like the others or something? And even the 11, 12 MLK, you identified that, and that was one of the ones that kind of stuck out to me. The commonalities, the ones that you said about RFP, those are the ones that that and Gulf Air are these unusual size lots that you're not going to put a single family home on this really weird lot. It doesn't really work for, it's not a standard rectangular square. There's no right angles. And so for me, I do look at those things. I look at the properties, I want to group them into types or uses. Infill lots, commercial lots, weird shaped, possible mixed use things. And in Florida Housing Coalition, and I've been approached by other people wanting to make plans for us and policies. I worry that a policy, we could go find a policy. It's really about, or there's policy and then there's market analysis of like what the thing should be. And we all have different opinions of, oh, this thing should be here, that thing should be there. And so I hesitate on having us, or we can go find a policy, a disposal policy, that's not that big of a deal. It's us kind of agreeing on how we want to see each grouping of lots being used. To me, that's the bigger conversation. I think we're pretty much on the like groupings of lots and then figuring out what we want there. What I want to avoid is we have so much vacant property on the market already. You drive down towards Hathaway Bridge and it's just vacant, sign. And what I don't want to do is us get into this sort of fast getting property sold and then we go, great, just more for sale signs. Someone 1030s ones into the lot and they just sit on it for 20 years. I want to see buildings hit the ground.
Got an answer for that. When you're paying full price for something, it's hard to say to somebody, you got to do these things too.
Sure.
But what we can do is say, I can incentivize you, and this came out of a conversation last night, and that is, all right, so how about in the next, here's what you're going to do, but in the next 24 months, if you build that, we'll pull back 10% of what it is you paid for the property, and we'll give you that back once upon your CO. Now let's incentivize them to get it up. You get vertically. Or we'll discount you 15% of the price that we'll hold on to. If you'll go ahead and start building now, we'll pay you. We'll pay you back. That way we can get it going. But when we are giving or selling at a discount, you're going to start within a year.
Yeah, totally.
Otherwise, we're going to take it back.
Yeah, I think that the 10 lots is a great start, that we really probably should break it down like your plan says to 5 or 6, right? I don't want to do a policy that's for all 234 properties. That's such a big lift. It will take us so long to agree on all the minutia of so I love the little bite-sized chunks.
Okay, so to that point, what I've also done is I've got all the lots and I'm grouping them, okay? Again, it isn't what Robbie says, it's not end all be all, but it's a residential lot's a residential lot. So group them here, get 5 of them here, 10 of them there. They can be sale, they can be affordable rents, they can be whatever we want to come up with in that area. These are the pockets. Now we decide and make it easier to break it down. I think then we can come together on 5 lots here instead of 25. It's easier to say yes to that.
Can we
and
go
then
back to
our
the slide that
disposition
has-
plan, yes, sir?
Yeah, let's go back to the slide that has all the properties. I think this is a great sort of starting point. Like, so, if you're even looking at this, you're kind of breaking these into little chunks.
Okay, so 309L and 3rd Street at the bottom. That's actually the same property. Okay, well, the lot's on the back of 309L, but the one that has the 10-4 South and all that piece of property is about that big. You got to step across the line and change your mind. Okay, so we're going to have to put that along with another piece in order to make it even be buildable.
Sure.
So that's where we'll come into those. But if you'll allow me to come back with that groupings, and it's going to be probably another 2 meetings, I'll submit to y'all all of that so that you can see around Panama City where all these lots are.
I'd like to say on the matter of a policy, given your concerns about chunks and pieces, it's a framework. And so within that framework, we still can accomplish what it is that you're after, Mayor, of being able to do what we're doing now. But we've got a policy in place that guides that development. I don't read anything in this draft that would preclude us from doing this parcel by parcel by parcel. And there are unintended consequences. I think I hear your concern if we have a policy that might lock us into some unintended consequences. My concern about the just chunks and pieces without a framework, without a plan, is that the other unintended consequences that can come from that. I see the Florida Housing Coalition as a
Bias.
non-biased.
Yeah.
I'm thinking from a retail perspective, from a dollar perspective. They don't have a dollar in the hole, right? And they've worked with cities across the state, which is why I wanted us to reach out to them and made that a connection and get them involved with helping us guide and direct. And so I'd like to see us move forward with the ideas as presented. Commissioner Hughes' excellent report and a way of beginning to look at how we do this and move forward without putting everything out on the market as a free-for-all with no control. And the other point I want to make as we talk about affordable housing, I know sometimes you guys think, okay, it's once we start talking about AMI and all of that stuff, it gets too confusing. But that's really where we do need to be definitive if we want to really make some affordable housing for our working folks who are caught in the gap between making too much and not qualifying. So if we just set it flat at 120% AMI, we're still leaving out a lot of working people. And as I often say, folks who work for the city of Panama City who would not be able to meet that 120% AMI. But they go to work every day and want to own a home.
I express concerns on, I looked at the draft disposition policy. I think it locks us in rather restrained. If you think about MLK and 15th, that would not have happened underneath this disposition policy. So the ability to be able to have.
Would you explain? I'm sorry.
So when you create the disposition policy, you're basically saying this is what this is going to be. Whereas MLK and 15th, how we were able to get it to the point that it could be RFP for commercial development is the city reimbursed the housing program what it had purchased for those lots, and therefore there were no continuing restrictions placed upon those lots as they moved forward. So it was an internal transfer and freeing of the lot from the housing scenario so that it could be used for commercial development.
We're writing the policy.
And
We
I
could
think,
write that
yeah,
into
I think
the
that's what
policy.
you need to
I'm
do is
just,
say, yeah.
look, I
and take
was
that, yeah.
provided a draft,
Yeah.
and so like I'm giving
See, I didn't know
feedback. The other thing that, you know, some of these lots we've had for 23 years. So, you know, I have concerns with just adding more resources back into a system that still allows things to stay for 23 years. I think that we need to evaluate how we get execution to affordable housing, not just disposition of property. Because let's say we sell something, it goes right back into, let's say we sell it for market value,
Okay.
such as one of the things we proposed. It goes back into the housing department, but it may take 3 years to see affordable housing actually to come to fruition inside of the system and process that we have. And so we're almost making this perpetual moment of delay into affordable housing by trying to recirculate through it. Because then you got to go purchase a piece of property, then you got to go develop it, then you got to go do, so we're 3 years down the road before we actually solve the issue that we're trying to solve on affordable housing.
Well, if I may,
Now, maybe that's down payment assistance, maybe the money is directed into something that is faster to execute.
Right.
Rather than developing from the ground up.
and that's kind of
Yeah.
where I'm going with it is, well, one, we are a long way from not having property to develop.
Agreed.
We will be doing that a long time. My thought on this is, and I've talked with Sheila about it, creating our own community SHIP program so that you are quicker to, and we become more of a housing, we help a buyer buy a house rather than we buy dirt. We know how to buy dirt. Let's use that money to help people get into the house through a down payment assistance and or a closing cost assistance. But to buy the dirt and then think we've got to go find the builder and do it that way.
Super complex.
No, we don't need, we've got enough of that. Let's create our own SHIP fund. And now, maybe we're not giving away $50,000, maybe we're giving away 20. But at the same time, that money's coming in. We could start a program, we could have $6 million in the bank that's creating some interest to throw off. and then turn around and have a perpetual affordable housing lending program to some degree. But it's also time we have to bring in lenders, okay? And I've said this out loud, the number one knock on our housing department is time, how long it takes to get from beginning to end. We can revamp that, but at the same time, if there's a lender out there that has a program that's 100% financing with bond program, and we can do the deal, let's do the deal, okay? We're not to take the place of, but to complement with. And we want to make it so that a buyer that working with Panama City can move through that process. Today, we got dirt, we got builder, but we're going to come to a point where we might just have the assistance to help you buy. And to me, that's what we're trying to get to.
So why I go to just locking in the price of construction, it is the simplest process to get to, hey, build a house XYZ that is affordable. We define what that affordability is.
Because I can't tell you what to build a house for. The market, if I say Josh can build a house for $200,000, I can't do that.
So let me give you an example. One of the lots you said, this last one, it's 0.154 acres. We could look and say, hey, that's a small lot. It's 6,700 square feet. We say, you can have the lot if you'll build a house for under this per square foot.
Okay.
Now see, the recycling side, we're 3 years down the road before we get to affordable housing. In this scenario, that could be going into the ground. You've got to build within X amount of months.
Right.
We could have constructed affordable housing in the fastest way possible.
Okay, so case by case basis, you're going to do. So you're going to pick which lots. Who's going to choose which lots are the good ones and the bad ones, and how do you choose who gets that lot?
As opposed to saying good and bad, let's say most effective use of the parcel. So then we're not pitting,
Well, highest and best use, okay? Highest and best use, and we'll use that one as an example.
I think that's a great one because I think
That's a great example, except wrong lot location. This is why you have to go visit every lot. That lot right there, if I gave you that lot and you go build a house under $200,000, they're going to hang me from the flagpole because those houses are not affordable next to it. But that's my point, is we have to.
the most difficult lot to build on, the smallest, most difficult lot to build on that we have into it. I guarantee you, working the process by just focusing on price point will beat every other scenario that we have in actually creating affordable housing.
And we're going to. Yeah.
I would ask, what about the perpetuity of it? Because the way the market is going, we're here because so many people who work every day can't afford a decent house to buy, to rent. And so putting it in your scenario, where does the perpetuity come? Or are we saying that that's the city we want to become?
No,
that one where working people have to live outside of the city of Panama City and come into work. We've seen that in many metropolitan areas throughout the country. That's a direction I personally do not want to see us to go into. With your scenarios, the piece that I'm not sure about is the second deal. Not the first one that has all the restrictions for affordable housing and how much it costs, but the second one that is flipped out for profit. And that's a concern.
I think it could be something as simple as a 5-year, you must maintain primary residence at that property. Because here's the reality is, we already have a community of unaffordability. It already exists today. So to think about how we keep it from becoming that, we already are that.
Yeah, but we're trying to make it affordable.
Exactly.
And you just made my point. We already are that. And so how do we not continue to perpetuate it with the opportunity that we have before us now? What stopgaps do we put in? And to say that we don't need a policy because it binds our hands is and we write the policy. Whatever your concerns are, you can put them into the policy. But what I'm hearing is, let's not have it. Let's just go lot by lot, 10, 20 at a time, and do what we're doing now in perpetuity or until you get tired, and then it's just all out on the open market.
After 20-something years of having some of these properties, like at some point in time, you have to step back and say, hey, you know what? Maybe we should try a different approach than what we've tried.
And I don't think it's fair to say that after 20 years, that this commission should be, that's our fault. We're trying to create a way to change that path to get rid of the 20 years ago. So is that fair?
I think that's fair.
Okay.
I think that's fair, Ron.
And
May I?
yes, ma'am.
There's a clause or phrase that's often used, goes something like past performance is not indicative of future performance. That's where we are. So to say what's happened 20 years ago when we weren't in the position with the insight, the influence that we have now to make a difference going forward, that's the point at which we are.
I think what we should ask ourselves is, have we fixed the underlying issues that exist and how we've had a lot since 1998 that has been vacant that now we are trying to go and sell?
So why do we ask ourselves that? We know the answer is no. And so the question I ask is, how do we direct getting that corrected and maintain affordable housing in perpetuity and make lots for sale that return money to the general fund? I think we can do the 2-3 options, and that this discussion we're having now is good for helping us to move forward. I don't know that it's moving us toward consensus of how to move forward.
I
So
don't
by the
think we're
way, on
going to
3rd
get to
Street-
that. I mean, I think what I'm hearing right now is we have this master planning process, and I hear some that are like, let's not do a master planning process. Or maybe it's both at the same time, and that is how we build consensus. But the thought that we're just going to take 200 and something lots, some being as far back as 1998, and we're going to lock it up into a disposition policy that we may take us 6 months to create is not something that I'm comfortable with.
No.
Because we need to create
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're
Real
kind of all
quick,
saying
to
the
go off to 1998, we spent $547,000 in 2021 on all those lots right there that are on the RFP. So we don't have to go back to 1998 to make mistakes. We did that 5 years ago, okay?
Yeah.
We as a city, not we.
Yeah.
Okay? So the goal here is to get it going, not hold it up. That's the number one thing.
Yeah, so again, my concern is this cathedral policy, and I think in the RFP could actually have a lot of those apprehensions, and the RFP could envelop most of the policy. You're not allowed to flip it after a certain number of years, here's our concerns.
Can't sell to an investor.
Yeah, and so to me, there are some complicated lots here. Maybe it's just a pilot program. I worry that we're never going to agree on 234 lots, at least in my lifetime. And so to me, I want this restraints. I want a policy, but those could also be incorporated. And I think we've already asked staff to come back to us with some policy direction, and those could be incorporated into an RFP on a few of these that we've already identified right here.
I would love to experiment with one, like just in creating affordable housing on.
Would you go through, I'm going through her disposition thing, and I'm starting to make changes. Would you do the same?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I already started going through it myself.
Okay.
And that's what, like, initially, from our workshop, I was like, disposition policy makes complete sense. But then I started thinking through it as we were going through it. I'm like, golly, we're just restricting ourselves from being able to do anything.
But it's a draft. so
But it
we
doesn't have to be
take
that
out what we
restrictive.
don't
That's what
want
I'm
to put
saying,
in
and we
it.
can change it.
But Commissioner Street, I heard you say a moment ago, perhaps it's both. That we move forward with the 10, we move forward with the policy direction. Mayor Branch, if we put them in different RFPs, a possible unintended consequence is it gets in some but not in others. And so a policy that's followed can help to do that. And it does not have to be this. This is a work draft, first draft. It may be 5 drafts before we get to consensus.
Totally. So my thought is not to have 45 RFPs go out tomorrow. It would be to have one and use our best guess and have it under the policies that we agree on and pick one lot. I think it's incrementally learning.
Sell
things.
805 Northeast Avenue. You got a full price offer. You got $300,000 offer on it right now.
Actually,
Maybe-
there's more than one
Okay.
interested party
There
in
you
that.
go. I mean, you could, but that's, all that is a market sale. That puts money in the bank.
Yeah.
If you want to do something that makes an impact, go to 309L, drive over there, go through that gate, and I've got an idea for it, but that can make an impact. You don't have to close in the ravine in there. You can beautify it. You make the developer do that.
So I would be interested, you said 805 north.
805 east,
Yeah,
northeast.
I think that's a great parcel, and incorporating what Robbie's already said, which is, and some of my fears, which is incentivizing them to move faster. And we can't put a lot of restrictions. I don't believe we can put restrictions on a property and ask for full price. And so I think that would be a great one to say, hey, what is a policy here that we could do? Don't flip it, and maybe we even, is this in the CRA? Maybe we hold back 10% of the purchase cost for
No,
impact
it's
fees.
just outside of CRA.
Yeah,
We can say-
but purchase price,
Yeah,
that's what
so,
you do.
hey, we're gonna hold back this as a
Yeah.
credit for your building permits and your impact fees as you get started, and that
So-
maybe moves it forward.
Got a question, Commissioner Hughes. That parcel has the park on one side, but it does have homes directly across the street.
Yes, it does.
And so we need to be mindful of the zoning and what actually goes there.
Exactly.
Does this
It
have
could
a
be
building
commercial
on
on the front.
It can be commercial in the front, residential in the
Does
back.
this have a building on it?
It did not,
if
no,
that's
it
what
was,
it
was the FEMA
it was FEMA trailer,
Well,
yeah.
there is a house there.
There's a house to the, down to the left.
The seller who sold this to the city would like to have the house back.
Well, hold on. A year after we bought this property, we quit claimed the seller on 1.4 acres back with no money back, so he got it back.
But the agreement was that the sale was for 300,000 and it did not include those three. That's why it was quit claim back.
So I hear a lot of variety of opinions. I'm open to moving in multiple directions. Just what I saw draft, having a singular policy for everything, I
Yeah,
don't
that's
think
fair.
that's achievable.
Can we
You
go
just
back
said,
to that list, please?
I hear multiple varying opinions. That's the reason we need a policy. Doesn't have to be super strict, but that's the reason we need a policy because.
Maybe there's a few core points that we can get to. I
It
can
keeps
see
us
that.
on the same
So
way.
What about the Millville property that is, let's see here, what was that address?
I mean, you can sell 1903 3rd Street. Do that one, and that's a vacant lot. Right across from the Baptist Church there on 3rd Street. You can do 309L, that's a big site.
Oh,
That could
was-
work.
What was the one that's further down closer to Boya and Casey? There was one.
That's one, that's 1903 3rd
Yeah,
Street.
2215. So that's a fairly straightforward lot. It's fairly flat. It can't be a lot of different things. It could be a cottage
house.
court, or that can be a cottage court, actually. But I think what would be interesting would be to say, hey, my thought would be, can we put this out in the RFP that has some, and maybe we give ourselves a week to kind of work with staff on our apprehensions, and we say, hey, bring us some ideas for this lot. We're willing to entertain anything from a full price offer down to something amazing, and we incentivize them.
How about I encourage you guys to drive by these lots. Let's go look at them first. Y'all do that and see if that changes your mind.
I think we're going to see a lot of interesting things at strong towns.
Okay.
I think your mind will be blown when you see a
Right?
cottage court.
And here's why it's important. This is what I do, and that lot changed. I knew in my head this was going to be affordable. Bam, and immediately said, no, we can't do that.
Wait, you said, no, we can't do that. Tell me what that means.
Because it's not the highest and best use for us to go and require affordable housing next to market rate housing.
Oh, well, there's.
Now you're talking about design.
No, now you're talking about use. You're talking about taking away value. Okay? Like what I think Josh said, parks are somebody said, oh, no, it was being said to us here. When we're taking parks away, we're taking away value from people. If you go and put the wrong use next to a house, and we allow that, yes, it's a house, but it's affordable housing versus market rate, that does not help where you've just put that.
Yeah, I think there's a disconnect, and we're going to see that in strong towns, which is these sort of cottage courts that are beautiful and amazing. We have no idea that they're affordable. They're not large-scale apartment complexes.
Oh, right. Yeah.
They're very little duplexes and missing middle housing
Yeah.
that blend into the neighborhood. And I'm not saying that's what this should be. I'm saying that the free market, and I think we spend our time at strong towns looking at other examples. But we picked, to me, on this list, we picked the easiest one, the one that's the most straightforward, And we start with that, and we shape the policy around this first one, we learn a little bit, and we move on. But this one's, to me, one of the least complicated. The topography is kind of straightforward. It's a rectangular type lot.
Do Gulf Avenue if you're gonna do that.
Yeah, that was
That's
a
the
tough
one you ought to
We
do.
still mudding back there.
Yeah,
back
that's,
in the back
yeah, right. Yeah, but that's the one that is, you could put some restrictions on it, some requirements, and it's a piece of property somebody can go buy and build on. That's a good idea.
Mayor, I'd like to hear from Florida Housing Coalition. They've been listening to our
Yes, they have.
conversation, particularly in regards to policy development.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner, and happy to be here. Appreciate the time and the ability to listen in. My name is Matthew Wyman with the Community Land Trust Institute, as you can see with the banner. And lots of really good conversation that I'm hearing gets me excited for the opportunity to continue the conversations that I've been having with staff on this very issue. I wanted to point out a couple of things, maybe some questions, maybe to spark maybe a different perspective. Heard a lot about the actions of the past, and as it pertains to policy, I wonder if there was a policy in place that held the organization accountable in how land that was either being acquired in one way or another. If there was accountability through a policy to do something with the land, and could that have maybe prevented land from sitting on the books for a couple of decades or even 5 years? I think what we see the best practice when it comes to land acquisition is buying land with a specific strategy in mind. We're buying land to do X. Not just to necessarily land bank. Not to say land banking is bad, but when you do that, typically the land bank has an overarching policy that says we're buying land for these purposes. Oftentimes it has to do with economic development, blight, providing affordable housing opportunities. Another thing I want to mention is that I heard affordable housing somehow drawing down the values of surrounding property. And that could not, and I respect the experience that's on the dais on real estate, being a broker, and just living in your community that you see things. But what I will say is vacant land or a blighted home versus a brand new or newly refurbished home that might be affordable to the family who lives in it is not going to change values to the negative. Oftentimes, really, we see more often than not, really, I'd be hard pressed to find an example of a negative consequence of affordable housing development is that values increase. In some circumstances with affordable housing, those are not considered arm's length transactions, like in a community land trust model, which I'm not going to dig into that, but there are situations where the outliers are not considered for valuation of neighboring or properties that are within that block or multiple blocks. On policy, all the conversation that I've heard really to me shows the need for a methodical and intentional approach. I won't say policy quite yet. I think what I'm not hearing is, what does your community need? We can say affordable housing, but can we dig into specifically what and where and why? And then create objectives that are going to impact those needs and those goals, that will utilize the resources that you have, I should say, like the land, and then this trust fund that I keep hearing possibly being established when land is sold for cash value. So really determining the needs of the community and how best to leverage the land and other resources that the city has, to me, is really what having a public land policy is about. Disposition is certainly one thing, but also having a policy on acquisition, on inventory and evaluation that would lead to acquisition and also lead to disposition are other critical components that may help to prevent the city to come into a situation that they may be currently experiencing or have recently experienced. 5 items as to why policy is important. One, simple: compliance with Florida statutes on the use of land, particularly on creating an inventory. I don't think that that's an issue at this point, but creating policy would ensure that staff has direction that is clear from the board, and that would transcend into the future. I've heard a few times mentioned by a couple of different people, transparency as the second point, and building public trust. What to expect from their local government is important for citizens, especially those who are involved in the housing ecosystem and that might want to participate in some of these opportunities, especially your nonprofit partners. I think one thing that might be really, really important and might resonate, and probably maybe something that you haven't necessarily thought about on the front end, is effective coordination of the efforts of staff to ensure continuity in the process. It is one thing for the policy to say, hey, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're not going to do based on these conditional situations. It's also very important for staff in different departments and divisions, or respectfully, without knowing exactly the reference points that you all utilize, it's important for them to know where they stand in the process, what the expectations are, so that one another can hold each other accountable, because working toward the same goal is kind of difficult when you maybe don't really understand your assignment and how you fit into the puzzle. Of course, we heard a lot about using the land and resources as a strategic and secure asset. One thing that I want to also add is, and it's something I heard early on in the meeting, not necessarily this bullet, is treating land like the scarce asset that it is. You might only have one shot. You may never own 200 properties ever again. You are in a very unique position. Most communities have already ran through long, long ago the land that they may have acquired through escheatment, code compliance, et cetera, as a result of the Great Recession. Because of some of the situations that have transpired in the Panhandle, the city of Panama City has a great opportunity, not just to impact the economy now. Let's go bigger than affordable housing. Let's go bigger than housing. Not just the housing needs, but also the broader economy, and create a circumstance where people can live where they work and live in a home that they actually want to live in, and not have to just, rent or buy something that might be subpar because that's all that they can afford based on that particular location. All of these things snowball, as you know, in an economy, public transportation and job opportunities and job centers, et cetera, et cetera. Last thing, and I will stop. Protecting the investment and creating a situation where the housing that you all are encouraging, incentivizing, can continue to be so for generations. Are you planning for tomorrow, or are you planning for your grandchildren's tomorrow? Thank you. That's all I got. Hopefully something that I said will be helpful for your continued conversation.
So one thing that I do.
Thank you.
One thing I do worry about, and I think, Robbie, this kind of touches on, the best market analysis comes from the free market, right? Like the investors, right? So I hesitate on us spending lots of money to just come back to the fact that people are already doing these projects in these neighborhoods. They know what the price points are. And we're doing, I don't see how any of these projects are any different than the RFP we're doing in St. Andrews and all these other RFPs that cities do all over the place. They don't come up with these cathedral policies that a lot of cities just break them off and they say, this one we want these things, or come to us with offers, and then they discuss each property individually. And I'm not advocating for these properties to be sold out in 6 months. It may take 10 years. But you take a big problem and you break it into small problems, and you approach them one by one. That's unless we want to do a land trust, and that completely takes us to a different step. We may decide to set aside certain properties for land trust. So that to me is I caution us of doing 24 months of planning just to have the same conversation in 2 years.
Well, I don't think that's the automatic, and I don't think that that's the consensus of what we want here. I don't want that. I don't want the paralysis of analysis to happen. But I also want us to be thoughtful because this is a one-shot. I like what you just said, Mayor. Let's take one today and move forward. Yeah. Let's continue with the policy. This can be a workbook, what we like, what we don't like. But we're moving forward now, and we're making something happen.
How about your friend in South Carolina, your mayor friend? I bet he's got a policy.
Oh, he's got lots of,
I bet he's got everything. I bet he's got a policy that we can look at. Again, I don't want to be so restricted. I'm trying to make it so that we can do this. Let's not be it so that you got to jump through a hoop and jump through a hoop. Let's be able to do this. And to Josh's point, I didn't know that the concept that you had to sell the property from one internal thing to another to make. That's
you
great.
Could unrestricted. We could do cemeteries with money. We could do other things.
And included in that, we want to be able to have that flexibility. But to have that flexibility inside the framework, now everybody wins there. But who wins the most are the citizens and the staff. Okay, this program cannot work fluently if the staff doesn't have something to operate under. Because, well, so-and-so said, no, this is what the document says, this is how we do it. But to your point, if it's too strict, then you can't really go anywhere. So I think we all need to have a hand in opening that policy up some, but also knowing that it's framework to move it forward, because we're not always going to sit here.
Could we agree to pick maybe 1 or 2 parcels that we just go and test?
Yes,
some of these
100%,
things with?
100%.
Like,
yeah.
It's like, have the general fund reimburse it, sell it unrestricted. Also do one that's maybe like, we'll pick a residential lot that can't be anything else, pick a bad one and say, we want a price point driven approach to building something here.
Out of these 10 that we've been given?
Part of what I saw in these, 5 of them are one giant lot in Millville, and you can't even access it without buying another piece of property.
No. We own the 3rd Street piece that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
You can come from 3rd Street or you can come from Elm. But sitting outside on Elm, there's 2 other properties that we have. So we can actually take those 2.
But we've got to add more properties to this list.
We got 2 out there that we can combine, okay, that are in the Elm right here.
Okay.
And make that be a RFP building site, okay? Or you can take that entire piece that has the ravine and make that be one. Now that's a project. That's more than just a building site. I would recommend that we take what's outside on Elm, and I have to, and there's a site. It's a square, and there's a long piece here. We take that, and I don't know which one it is. Let me show you.
I think that's a great one for like some type of neighborhood development approach, and like maybe that one is a little more nuanced than just.
This can just be a house. The one I'm talking about can just be, to your point.
Yeah.
Okay? And then we can sell one in the open market.
We have an unsolicited offer on 1346 North Palo Alto from Schwartz Gainer, who built a house right next door to it and grew up at his grandma's house right next door to that. And he wants to build a house for his kids, and he's ready to take action, and he's a contractor. He's been waiting a year.
Right.
And he is building in that block and wants to continue to build.
And here's another thing. Anybody that's been building St. Glenwood, there's 3 or 4 main builders right now. Should they get any preference because they've been doing it on their own dime with all the risks, with no help from the city, and everybody else going to come in now and get free lots? Okay? That's something that I strongly believe in, that they ought to get some sort of preference because they're the ones that have been helping the price point and get to where it is.
Crazy enough, my little Spark program had that incorporated into it.
There you go. How about that? And so those are the types of things. Those are the types of things that would be built into the framework.
All right, if I may.
Oh, yes.
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you.
That'd be great.
Oh, welcome.
Oh, hey, everybody. It's raining outside, by the way. I would suggest that we take 805 East Avenue and that we put it out for an RFP for companies who do affordable housing to tell us what they want to do with it. And I would suggest that we don't even charge them for it. Just give them the land if they would be willing to build affordable housing.
You said 805?
Okay, we have
805
a-
East Avenue. And again, these are big problem, turn it into a little problem, right? So that's one. These other properties, I think you were discussing Elm Avenue.
I can support that.
How about this? Can you jump on Gulf Avenue instead of East Avenue?
Why?
Because we can sell East Avenue instead of giving away, we can make back the money we made on it. At Gulf Avenue, we can give away and we're ahead of the game. And you're doing the same thing.
Can you put the parcels back up, please, Mr. Schwartz? Thank you.
So you're saying,
I think you're going to get more bang for your buck out of affordable housing out of a 5-acre parcel.
But it's not 5 acres.
Well, then we sell it to them for $300,000. I mean,
That's-
maybe that's,
please.
my point is I don't necessarily want to lock in because what the RFP going out, the companies may be able to come to us and say, hey, I will purchase this from you for X.
Well,
That X may be higher or lower than 300,000. They may say, hey, we want you to give it to us, but our benefit back to the city might be something we're not even thinking about.
correct.
309L, do it with that one. Give it away. Because, Brian, I'm telling you, that one,
Okay.
they're going to spend some money on that. That's a great idea on that one.
So
On which
309
one?
Elm is a.
309L, the ones, the 5 properties together.
yeah.
There's a gate. But if someone, you can go in and beautify it, it's got a building, you can turn it into an apartment complex. There is something, you can make that a community. And to Brian's point, now we've got something that we can change the landscape.
Just to point out one thing as we're discussing this. The larger the parcel, the more costly and complicated that it becomes for a developer, okay? So they're gonna have to go get civil engineering. They're gonna have to go through all of these things. Like, the single-family lots that we have is by far the easiest thing to work with in experimenting with things.
That's right.
But I can support pretty much anything at this point as long as it moves forward.
Okay.
We have an unsolicited offer on North Palo Alto. The person,
You got unsolicited offers all over the
What I
place.
was
Yeah,
trying
we
to get
do.
at here is that the smaller ones, I believe, Commissioner Street, I believe what you're trying, what you are saying and what I'm hearing is there's more flexibility with the smaller parcels because virtually anybody can work with it that is
Any
in this space,
builder,
right?
as long as they get to affordable housing is the end result.
And so 805 East Avenue is 4 acres, 5 acres, I don't know whichever one we're looking at here. One says it's 5 acres on GIS, and then this thing in
It's
front of me here says.
4.3.
Either way, it's the largest parcel by far out of all these parcels that we're looking at. And so what I'm saying is that there's companies out there, we have some that are local, there are some that are also operating elsewhere in the state of Florida that can come in, look at that 4 acres and go, we can work with that.
So,
And
I'm sorry to
so
interrupt.
all I'm suggesting is that we take 805 East Avenue and take it off our plate by putting it onto an RFP to put it out there to everybody in the world that does affordable housing so that they can come and tell us what they would like to do
And I
with
think-
that 4 acres.
I think with moving it forward, we need to then talk about the unsolicited offer that's on the project, property. And we've got several unsolicited offers. So how do we address that? And which is what I thought we were going to do at some point. We were talking about that, but we didn't want to, again, do any kind of blanket statement. So do we not entertain the unsolicited offer?
Well, what I've heard is that, listening to all of you, is that you want something to happen with the property.
Yeah, and I guess, have I not seen this?
Wait,
this
805, Josh, to your point.
So I don't know what that
You're
is.
gonna- It's going to require civil engineering, it's going to require survey, all that's going to be the same on 805 Elm, 805 North East Avenue. If I may, can we let's sell a lot. Let's just do that. Let's get away from the big pieces, okay? Just for a moment. Trust me on that, you want to sell 805, okay? You don't want to RFP that. You want to sell it. We're in it upside down, we can get to it, trust me on that. sell or give one of these other lots in Millville, off these 10, give them one of those and sell, and do the deal.
View on Third Street. I think to me, an investor coming into those neighborhoods, the easier the lot to build should be the first one you go after.
Bam,
And
there
so
it is.
that's why
There's two of them
I keep
right
going
there.
back to, what is the address on Third Street there that we keep going
Well,
up?
do 2215 and do Third Street at the bottom. Both of those are buildable lots.
You're saying 2215 Third Street and 3rd Street East,
Yes, sir.
the bottom
Yes,
one
sir.
here on our
Yes, sir.
screen?
1903?
No, sir. No, ma'am. Down at the bottom.
The one,
okay.
and you want me
Yeah.
to sell these outright?
2215.
And so at the back of 309 Elm is the Third Street lot, and across the street from the Baptist Church is the 2216.
I think 2215 would be
lot.
interesting to see what the ideas are. And I think we're going to see a lot more ideas as we go to Strong Towns, and we can come back and be more educated on the possibilities. It's probably not going to be a large apartment complex, or hopefully not a single-family home, in my personal opinion. But I'd love to move forward with something today.
Yeah. Now, my recommendation is you put a restriction of how small the house can be in terms of size, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, square footage, minimum of 950 square feet. You can't sell it for 5 years. If we're going to give them the lot, we can attach the lot as a second. If they live there for 15, it can come out and be a gift, and it comes off. It's a 0% silent second mortgage. In the meantime, that builder, they come and build a house, and it's got to be under $200,000. It's
Okay,
got to be a
so-
square footage requirement per square foot cost, under $200,000.
Which property?
It's right here.
Either one of them, both of
2215,
them.
Third Street.
2215 at Third Street, and the one at the bottom of Third Street.
The 2215 3rd Street, that's the one you're talking about?
Yes,
that's
sir.
Just going out to sale?
Yep,
Okay,
put it up for sale.
I'll motion,
Wait, 22, which one?
2215.
I'll motion that 2215 3rd Street East, that we put it to staff, to have staff come back to us with what that looks like, because you're putting a lot of requirements on there, and some of those may not be legal, within a week, to let us know whether, we're not gonna meet in a week, the next meeting, and then next meeting, we can just approve that you go out for sale.
I love that one because it's 1998 when we purchased it.
Actually, we didn't purchase it. We got it in an agreement that the guy didn't keep his word, and we took it back from him. So we didn't buy it back. We quit claimed it back from him.
All right.
So we got it for $100.
We got it for $100.
Okay, we
So-
have a
We have a
motion.
motion.
Yeah,
And there's a second?
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you for the opportunity. I will nerd out some more,
Keep
bring
going.
you some more
And it
information.
only
It's very
took
helpful.
28 years.
Sure. Hey,
Wasn't,
focus on 21, Josh.
wasn't there a motion and a second
I mean,
on East Avenue as well, Commissioner Granger?
No, we
No.
didn't.
No, we never
Okay, I
got
heard you
there.
make a motion.
No.
It was
Okay,
just
do we want to
2215.
move on, or do we continue to discuss properties?
Can we move to 10?
No.
We are moving, do we want to move to 11B? Because 11B got moved to 10, to 9B.
Yep. All right, item 11B. Now 9B is consideration of the sale of vacant city properties located at 1218 College Avenue and 2151 East 11th Street. Parcel IDs 15805-000-000 and 15805-010-000 respectively, totaling approximately 37 acres. As background information, the two city-owned parcels measure 7.35 acres for 1218 College Avenue and 29.69 acres for 2151 East 11th Street, and are both zoned urban residential 2. That description is attached. Coleman American Moving Services had a lease on the property that ended in November of 2021. The properties are currently vacant, and city engineers have deemed that most of the land could be developed. Staff and CBRE Real Estate, a city-procured and approved vendor, recommend listing the property for its highest value and best use. If the properties are sold, CBRE would be paid a commission in accordance with the fee schedule outlined in the attached proposal and contract. Staff recommendation, approval to list the properties for sale and direction regarding the proposed sale and use. Verified and qualified offers will be brought back to the commission for approval of a sale with the contract at a later date. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, let's open up. I know Robbie wants to say something.
I do. This is a great example of why you need a plan. Staff's picking and choosing what to sell, okay? If we had a plan and we had them grouped together, and that's not a slam on Sean, I want you to know that. He shouldn't have to be in that position. It should be easy for him to say, this is the next group, this is what we're doing next, instead of having to look at a picture that looks nothing like what that site looks like today, okay? That is as far from what we're trying to sell as we can be. So that site is really, we don't have a warehouse district on this side of the bridge, folks. That could be it. But to just go sell it without any ideas or thoughts doesn't make sense to me. This is where we can lose a lot of money or make a lot of money, okay? Because if we identify the right use, now we go to CB Richard Ellis and say, go find us a warehouse district developer. And bam, now you got something a need that we have on this side of the bridge.
Did we hire?
We have not.
Real estate and advisory, this company?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. This is one of the three that
One of
y'all
the three.
approved, ma'am. CBRE is.
So this, but I guess what I'm trying to understand is we have these rotating that we can ask when we decide to sell.
That is
Yes.
correct.
Okay, so we ask them to prepare
We
this?
did, and we did it like alphabetically. So this is the next
But-
one. 'Cause
But
remember
why did
sold
we
the-
ask them to do this? Who
Yes,
asked
that's
Sean
what
to
I'm-
do that?
That's what I'm trying to get to. Why, how does this get outside of the other discussion that we've
Right.
just
Who asked Sean to do
about
that?
all the parcels?
There's a lot of history on this.
No, Jonathan,
yeah.
I asked you, who asked Sean
Yeah.
to put this together and bring this back to us?
A proposal for,
To go get CB Richard Ellis to do this? Who asked him to do that?
I believe they reached out, someone reached out to us, or at least
No,
knew
sir.
there's something.
Sean, no, sir. Sean, who asked you to do this? To prepare this? I'm gonna get the answer. Which staff person had told you to go get this done? CB Richard Ellis and not pick this site. Here's my point. We got people telling from up here, telling people down here to go do something, and it's outside the scope of what we're talking about. Okay? We need a plan, and we need everybody to be on the same page. So we're not having this kind of discussion at the dais.
So I have a question. First of all, I didn't ask for this to happen.
It would have been staff. It would have been
But
upper level
I do have
staff.
a question.
Nobody wants to admit it.
Why is it highest and best use in other parts of the city, but this one here, we have to decide what to go for?
Everything's highest and best use.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to understand here because the discussion around this one was we should build a warehouse district.
No. And that's just an idea. Just there's highest and best uses, and and ideas in highest and best use are not just one. I just threw that out because what that shows is warehouses.
So I'm just trying to marry the ideas together.
Okay.
If we're selling over here, why are we having a problem selling this?
For me, I raised the question because we're having a discussion about all of the properties, parcels, and this now is just a separate, we got to decide on it, and it is not part of the other discussion.
But it's the second time it's come back to the agenda too.
Well, and while I've been generally aware of an interest since, I was elected 3 years ago, I wasn't aware that we're ready to do this other than the briefings that I've gotten in the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So I'm just want to know what makes this separate from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, I have not directed them. I mean, I think staff is listening to our conversation of how to potentially get rid of properties, and this is a big piece.
Yes, I would encourage us not to maybe look at that as an incredible negative, because I always want to
It's
encourage
just a
people
why.
to take.
It's not a negative, it's just a why.
To take a proactive approach. I do think, like, I've gotten surprised with this parcel before myself. Like, there was a point in time that was talked about for senior housing. I was like, where did that come from? I don't know. Like, a PACE Foundation thing was another time. I didn't know where that came from either.
Because that's what it was, PACE.
So,
that's why.
I think and my memory's being jogged here, but this to Commissioner Lucas's point, this has been talked about off and on for a while, and it keeps getting, like, people kind of nibble around it, and it kind of comes up, and I know that
But my point, Jonathan, is
warehouse.
it keeps showing back up without us asking for it.
I think this is the
It's
first
the
time
only
it's ever
site that
actually
keeps
made
showing
the
up without
agenda.
us asking for
But there's
it.
a lot of stuff that shows up without us asking. for
Most of the
I think that's part of Jeff's
Actually, most of the agenda, I get that. But if we're gonna just show up with real estate sites, let's recycle them. Let's put new ones on. But you're helping me create the point. You're creating the point. With the plan, that's one thing Sean doesn't have to worry about. With an idea of where, of all of our real estate, it's one thing Sean doesn't have to worry about. It's efficient, it's everybody is on the same page, and now we're working in the same direction instead of somebody saying, yo, why don't you bring that back? Because nobody wants to admit who it is.
I guess I don't understand
Tired of it.
how a policy would tell us, like, I guess they would group similar like lots and they would give us a schedule of the importance of those lots and what to sell first or what to dispose of first.
Yeah, I remember this one coming up because we asked for was give us something to sell. I remember that, and this was early, probably almost a year ago now, in our original discussions involving housing. And the larger lots were the thing that was said, well, let's sell the larger lots first. You know, partially for the same reason that no developer takes bigger lots because they're so complex to actually do something with. But, you know, to some of the discussion today, I've never thought about this for warehousing, and there was warehousing on it. So maybe that is the best use of it. Maybe that's something that we want to ask a Triumph grant for, you know, and create a warehousing district. Maybe we want to specifically incentivize by allowing Panama City Housing Authority to expand what they do with another complex. I mean, there's a lot of different options to go about that, so.
Can we all agree that if we're going to have conversations about disposition, then we all have to have gone to the site and looked at it? I think it helps the discussion to know what it is we're talking about, because looking at a picture does not tell what it is. It just changes the discussion. It changes your position in the discussion, in my opinion.
I think staff is doing what they're supposed to do, which is bringing us a possible sale and then us discuss our apprehensions. And us set policy around either sell, and we're doing this with all the properties. Do we P3 it? Do we RFP it? Do we just sell it? And I think this is a part of the conversation. You know, my apprehensions of this property, I don't want to lose out on anything. And one of my biggest worries is this potentially, this is a watershed or was a watershed or it's a watershed under certain conditions. And I worry that we're going to look back and say, oh my gosh, well, I wish we had kept a little easement in there for stormwater, regional stormwater for other projects in that watershed. And so that's one of my concerns. I do share a lot of the sentiment of like, I like to, this is a commercial corridor somewhat. And so I do kind of care what's there, but I also want to let the free market dictate what should be there as well. I don't want to spend, you know, $50,000 doing market analysis on something and then the market changes as well. So I don't, you know.
I'll do it for 25.
$25, sounds
Yeah.
good. And so, you know, to me, this is no different. The staff brings us things that we then voice apprehension of. And oftentimes there are agenda items where we go, where did this come from? Who's pushing this? I think this is just staff listening to us and our concerns and bringing us, hey, what do you guys think about this? And so my concerns are the stormwater and making sure that we have retention and we don't go, oh my gosh, we've just lost an opportunity. I'd like to see this put out. Maybe someone comes in and says an idea. I think that we aren't even thinking of warehouse district. I've never done a analysis on that. That may be a fantastic thing, but the free market might dictate what should go there as well.
Could you do that?
I mean, this is.
It's UR2.
The East Avenue is you know, the TPO is looking at expanding
East Avenue.
Avenue,
Yeah.
or enhancing it rather, not expanding it, enhancing it.
who's looking at doing that?
TPO.
Okay.
It is on the TPO list, and so for enhancement, not necessarily expansion. I mean, it's a highly residential area around it, with some, you know, heavy industrial much to the south of it.
I mean, this one's great
Heavy
because
industrial.
we've only owned this one since 1938. So, I mean, we've been,
Well, I think-
Mr. Mayor, if you would, I would
Hang on
move to table
few more
for
years.
further discussion
I like that. Be 100 years.
and maybe to workshop this particular.
What do we?
yeah, I think this one probably doesn't fall into a unified disposition policy. I think it is a more one-off from that perspective. But I do think that, hey, probably, you know, we've had it for this long, it probably needs to have a defined purpose and for us, if that's watershed, if that's, future expansion area, if that's sell it, just having it on the books for, almost 100 years probably isn't the best
So is that a
use of
second?
taxpayer resources.
Is there a motion?
I made a motion
Oh,
to
I
table
didn't
What is
hear
that?
that. You made a
Table it?
motion to
I'll
table
second.
it to what?
I'll second.
to workshop it.
Okay.
And then we got a speech and a second.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your
No.
motion. That's why I did.
No, we're fine.
Any discussion on tabling it? Any discussion on tabling this? Please call the roll. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Yes, we're going to take a recess of 7 minutes, 7.5 minutes.
7.5 minutes.
Wow.
All right. I believe we are on, we've moved around a bunch today. I believe we're on 10A. Am I correct?
Ms. Waldron.
Ms. Walter.
Yes, thank you. All right, so 10A is notice of vacancy on the Panama City-Bay County Airport Authority Board. So the Panama City-Bay County Airport Authority Board has one position for a 4-year term that expires on June 25th, 2030. We have received one application. It is included in your packet. The airport district consists of 7 persons, 6 of whom are citizens and residents of Bay County, and 1 of whom is a citizen and resident of Walton County. 2 members of the airport district are appointed by the City Commission of Panama City. 2 members are appointed by the Board of Bay County Commissioners. 2 members are appointed by the City Council of Panama City Beach, and 1 member is appointed by the Board of County Commissioners of Walton County. The airport district board serve 4-year terms and are subject to a term limitation of 2 terms. The Airport District Board meets the 4th Wednesday of each month at 9 a.m. and applications are available on the city's website at www.panamacity.gov.
I'll motion we just go ahead and accept Mr. Lee's application.
Second. Any discussion?
Yes, I haven't had a chance to meet with him or talk with him. And this is an important position. I would like to have that opportunity before.
All right, I withdraw my second.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Just ask him why with Auburn.
Thank you, colleagues.
So we want to table this to the next meeting?
Yes.
Well, there's
This is
nothing to
notice.
table.
Nothing to table?
It's
Okay.
a notice.
It's a notice, so we'll just bring it back at the next after your.
Yes, and I will
Bring it
have that
back.
conversation. Thank you.
Mr. Lee is very awesome.
All right.
Moving on.
Item 10B is notice of term expirations on the Panama City Port Authority. The Panama City Port Authority has 2 positions for a 4-year term that expire on June 25th, 2030. The current board members, Harvey Hollingsworth, has been a board member since 2014, and George Reese, board member since 2022, have expressed an interest in retaining their positions on the board. Letters of interest and additional applications received by the city clerk's office are attached. The directors are appointed for a 4-year term of office and are subject to term limitations. A member who has served 8 years on this board must be reappointed by a unanimous vote of the City Commission. Directors must live in Bay County. The Port Authority Board of Directors meets on the 2nd Thursday of each month, and applications are available on the city's website.
Thank you. Did we want to have a discussion about appointments, because we had discussed that previously?
I think it's a good idea.
Do you want to take that?
Oh, sure. As you can see, we have 4 people here who are wanting to serve or continue to serve on the board for the Panama City Port Authority. As previous discussion, we had brought up, and I believe y'all are in favor of moving it forward in some way that each one of these appointments would be tied to each one of these seats up here. I'm in favor of moving forward in that direction, today, where one of us can say, hey, this person is the person that I would like to appoint. I think that would be helpful for staff as well, because we've done this before where it kind of gets into a game of, hey, there's 5 people, there's 5 of us, which one kind of gets allocated to which person.
Sure.
And that gets kind of tough, especially for staff, because they never want to make decisions for us, right? As individuals or as a group. So I think it's a lot easier for them when we do that, when we express, especially publicly, when we express our desires and what we want to see moving forward.
I thought about that after our last one, and while I was somewhat in favor of it before, I'm not now. And the reason is this board is very much of a working board, one that requires some knowledge, some experience maybe in I'm not going to say import-export only. And you don't have to live in Panama City to serve on this board. You don't have to be in a certain ward to serve on this board. And I don't want to feel handcuffed in that we're asking somebody to put somebody on the board that doesn't have that experience, because that's how we all operate when we have our individual choices. I feel like they come out of our wards. They may or may, but this one doesn't have to. It would be the only one. But I'm not sure, is that what we're talking about?
No, it wasn't a requirement that that person comes from our ward. It was simply that that was our nomination.
Even on
Okay.
the planning board, they're not required to come from our ward. We just did that because that makes more sense on a planning board.
Right, right,
Yeah, where you get elected and you say, this person shares my vision or
Exactly.
whatever.
right.
Yeah, there's no requirement. We could literally, and this was the planning board before, where all of them came out of one neighborhood. Whereas, that made more sense for us to say, hey, specifically our ward. All I'm saying is I want the same process and procedure with any board that we can do that with, and the port falls into that.
So you presented us kind of like a global plan for all the boards and so forth.
Not all the boards, but
Most-
all the ones
most-
that we can do
right.
this with, yes.
So let's adopt that. I mean, let's go through the adoption process.
Sounds like the mayor gets the first appointment, is that right?
If you want it, if you want it. Again,
But I do know
don't-
we're scheduled to talk to these 4 guys. At least that's the message I got.
Yeah, I wouldn't be in favor of doing any change to how the board appointment happens right now. We need to, we've got these people in front of us, that we've got 2 appointments that need to be filled.
So if we were to fill those appointments today, all I'm suggesting is that,
One person nominates.
that one person nominates one of them and another person nominates the other one, and then that's their nominations when we move forward through that process. That's all I'm suggesting.
Okay, and how do we get from
Can I
5
nominate
to
people?
those 2? We pulling straws?
Russell.
Russell?
Yes.
So
I'm gonna
have
go
you
ahead and
all
just-
already met with all 4 of these who've applied?
I wasn't able to meet with George, but he did send an email. He's been
I exchanged
traveling.
emails with all of them.
So,
I'm not prepared to vote today on that. I'd be prepared to bring it back to the next meeting with the other one, but still apprehensive on the single appointment of this. This is a board that operates completely differently than any other board that we have in Panama City.
I guess I just need to understand, how does that work? Because these terms can't be synced with our terms.
Exactly.
So how does that work?
Only the appointment.
Yeah.
It's only the appointment. So
Is that the case?
that's what I'm suggesting.
What,
That the appointment is subject to the term of the elected person, does that work?
That's what
'Cause
we
I
did.
thought, like,
well,
Planning board.
what I think is being discussed is that, let's say Commissioner Granger had an appointment today, and then 4 years from now, maybe it's not Commissioner Granger that's in the seat, it's another commissioner, then the other commissioner would make.
But it doesn't sync exactly with
No.
our term.
Now I know where Nevin stands.
Okay.
I realized I had a bad example halfway through.
Tell me how you really feel, Nevin.
Oh, boy.
I don't know what you did to the attorney,
I
Brad.
know,
Not
right?
enough votes, see ya.
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, that's all I'm suggesting is that whoever is in the seat when the time comes, it's their appointment. Now, obviously, the rest of the board has to agree with that. I mean, it is a whole board approval process that we vote to. We did this with the
So-
planning board as well.
Okay, so today we have 4 nominees. What you're
slots.
suggesting is, we wouldn't have those, 2 people would have brought 2 names.
Correct. Because
But they would still apply, though.
It would still, people could have nominated.
No, because that's not how we're doing it on the planning board. They're not applying, we're making the appointment.
They can still apply.
They can still apply, and you can say, okay, here's the pool of people.
fact,
who
they have to.
And you say, this is the person I like the best out of this group, or you find somebody else.
They have to apply.
Right, they have to apply,
Yeah.
but right now, there's 4 people that have applied on their own without a commissioner appointment coming. Versus, I want to be on the board, and I tell you, and you say, oh, I'll apply, and you think I'm worthy or whatever, and you're gonna nominate me. That's only 1 versus 4 people. Does that make sense? They've done 4, we got 4 here, that would only bring 1, me, versus 4 people have applied.
I don't, let's just say that one of the 2, let's
Uh-huh.
say we were already operating the way that I'm suggesting.
Okay.
Right? And one of the 2 that are already on the board is one of your appointments. Like,
Okay,
it's tied
okay.
to your seat, right?
Okay.
So then, and you could then decide, well, I would like for that person to either continue, or you could decide, well, hey, these other two have applied. In this case, we do have 3 others. And you say, hey, I would like to have, this person, and you bring that to this board and say, I would like to nominate that person.
Let's use a real example.
Yeah.
Brandon Berg, I asked him to be on the Charter Review Committee. He has been amazing, bringing me an issue, saying, what do you think about this? And I go, I don't know, do some research, I trust you. Or here's what I think. He's been very collaborative, bringing me things, and we get elected to really implement our vision, right? And for me, a lot of this is I want a board member that I appoint to come back to me if they think that I would like to weigh in on their decision and give them some feedback. And so much of this is getting elected, but then not having the opportunity to find great collaborators on boards who will work with you as an elected official. Because we get blamed for all the boards anyways.
Well, that's true.
And so in this situation, I said, Brandon, why don't you apply you've been so great on the Charter Review Board, why don't you apply to be on the Port Board?
And I agree with everything you said, with the exception of that board. This is not a board where we need to collaborate. This is a board that it is the number one economic generator, higher than tourism, okay, in Bay County. And so this is something that is not I need a vision to happen over here. I know nothing about that.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure that the person's on there, whether they're my friend or not, they know what they're doing.
Well, I don't know anything about Public Works or Police Department, but those are all.
But we don't appoint those. I know a lot about planning, but I don't know, so I feel better about an appointment there. Does that make sense?
But all of the boards, this has the most economic impact on the city and the county. So I absolutely agree with you, which is why I'm suggesting that we do this, rather than it just be at the whim of the entire commission.
I want to make one quick point, is that this is a creature of a special act, the Port Authority, and the only, and it says in the special act, the commission makes the appointments. Now, how you get there is totally an internal policy. So in other words, a commissioner could make a nomination, then it's ratified by the commission, and then that is a commission appointment. That's the only.
Basically what I'm asking.
Have you had any discussion with any of the port people, or maybe the new port manager, about this idea? Again, this decision has a big effect on them. Okay, have you had any discussion with them if this is a good idea or bad idea?
All decisions that we have about this.
I get
it. Yeah, I've talked to a few of them.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, please.
It seems that there's some very passionate opinions, particularly with these appointments. Maybe we can continue this discussion if the two that are willing to bring somebody forth in a nomination process will accept that that is their nomination. Like for me, if I was looking out as planning board, I would be picking Frank or Lisa's spot is where I would be picking, if we were doing the appointment process. So this.
You mean timeline?
Yeah, timeline wise. So, maybe we need to have further discussion along this side, but if there is someone feels very passionate, like the mayor just expressed with Brandon, if you have somebody that you're very passionate about, Robbie, you seem to be the other one that's very passionate about that. As long as you guys are willing to accept that somebody else is going, if we pass an internal policy like Nevin is saying, that you used up your 2 nominations, that's fine. Does that make sense?
As long as that's the direction that we're going to move in.
Yeah.
What I don't want to do is us go through that exercise and then all of a sudden, well, we're not doing that anymore.
What has been, I'm sorry.
Go.
What has been the approach in the past? How did we get to a nominee? Maybe Nevin?
As far as the Port Authority
Yes,
specifically?
specifically.
This approach, there are individuals that indicate that they would be willing to serve. The commission talks about it. They meet with the individuals, and there's a nomination. Then there's a vote. But it's just like any other board. There's a notice that goes out. There are vacancies. We have a policy that I believe was adopted by resolution that if you serve more than 2 terms, then you don't get but
I'm asking about the nomination
Yeah,
process
it's
specifically.
Just the notice that goes out, I think it's posted.
And then someone on the DSL.
Yep,
On the
this is-
website.
Yeah, and I
This is
mean-
the notice, this is the first time we're noticing this vacancy.
Hey, and keep in mind, I brought somebody forward and it failed. So I've gone through this nomination process before trying to proceed.
Then
But you guys were not on the board at that point in time, so thank you guys.
Yeah.
Are you in favor of then what I'm suggesting?
This board, I do agree with Robbie's point that this board is very unique from the perspective of it is a more, thankfully, why I'm comfortable in this discussion right now is we have very good applicants. But if somebody was, and I'm just saying, if we had somebody on the dais that was willing to bring forward somebody with no business experience, that would be a concern for me on approving that nomination. Does that make sense?
Well, then you wouldn't approve it.
But I mean, I'm being transparent with somebody could bring forth a nomination that I couldn't support because this specific board, they run a budget, they operate, they have a lot of various things. So it's not just like, hey, I could just pull somebody, that's my buddy. Does that make sense?
To that point, and I agree
So-
with that. Mr. Attorney, can we specify criteria for this particular board beyond what we have?
Yes, in fact, the special act has a criteria, it's a negative criteria. You can't have more than 2 members that are in that business. That's really not
Yeah,
an
there's no
issue.
criteria that says you have to have a certain level
No,
of
but
business
no.
expertise.
But yes, you can have internal criteria if the board wishes. However you wish to get there to make the appointment is what you do.
So I guess, Josh, to your point, and I kind of disagree. Well, I see it that you don't want to go into a negative campaign against a person who might not be, that you don't believe is a good fit and embarrasses volunteer citizen who's wanting to help. But I don't think there's not a way really to resume ourselves into the perfect candidate either. And so the same push of a potential appointment that might not be the right fit could happen from the group of us or individual. So I don't, I see that, but then I disagree with it as well.
This is the only one that we've discussed that I've hesitated on.
Yeah.
So just so that we know, like on
You know,
anything that we've talked about, and it is only because of I mean, Robbie made the point very well of like, it is a huge economic driver. But with these candidates, I have no concern with.
It's not about
any-
the candidates, you're right, it's about the
Yeah.
process.
So should we discuss candidates today, or should we just drop that?
I assume we do it all
Well,
in this meeting.
I
I
would
think Jen's had an opportunity to talk to them.
Have you gotten to talk to them yet, Commissioner Lewis?
One by phone briefly, but none of the others.
Okay. All right.
Specific to this appointment.
Okay.
I want to talk to them.
Well,
And where I've been comfortable since we've been doing appointments, and we've kind of gotten away from that, is that we would have scheduled appointments and meet and talk with them. And that was handled so that everybody had had that exposure before we got to this point.
But that only started with us.
Yeah, now it's
That was
ended.
not a thing beforehand.
Yeah, but I liked it.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to it.
Well, it's still ongoing.
I mean, these
Kinda,
these
sorta.
specific ones, well,
It's
I
not
mean,
as,
all of these 4 individuals I've had the pleasure of working with in some capacity, so I mean,
So then the question, I think, there's 2 questions. We don't have to tackle it today, but they will remain if we don't. Which is who are the 2 that are going to go on to or stay onto the board, and then do we want to adopt the seat-specific nomination process?
I think we bring that seat specific back to the next, because I've heard
Yeah.
some key points.
Then I would recommend that we don't have any nominations today, because if we do move forward with seat-specific, then it would make the most sense to have.
And I can agree with that. It's just a notice today.
Yeah, understood.
And let's tackle how that appointment process is going to happen before we get into the appointment of the people.
Yeah,
So let's just
that's
make
what I-
sure that
That's true.
that's
That's a good
before.
idea.
And then if we end up in disagreement, I'm sure we'll end up in agreement with, who is on board. So,
And another point, when we come prepared to nominate on the first notice day, for those who also may be interested, that notice hasn't been publicly made at a commission meeting. And so maybe as a standard, that we notice and then we appoint at a time, the next meeting or after that we've given notice here.
Okay, moving on, 11A.
Could I have,
Sure,
like to
go
ask a
for it.
question? Is the commission asking to look at a resolution or an ordinance that goes through the seat-specific
I am.
appointment process? Okay. So that can be prepared, obviously. I don't want to be presumptuous.
I'm okay with something being prepared. I would like us to kind of vote and then one way or the other and then just move on from that one.
Well, why don't we have staff prepare it, and then they can bring it back the next meeting, and then if we like it, we can vote for it, and then move right into appointments.
I just don't want to pick first. So
That's-
if it ends up being that.
I'm fine.
So, which is kind of an odd
So
scenario.
it's really weird when you try to craft these things, like you don't know where other people's, like where they're gonna be at or what they're gonna want. Like you just said you want to pick first, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't mind picking last, I don't mind picking first. So wherever I need to fall in this process is fine with me. So,
I'd like to see us vote on these nominees and then set a policy going forward.
I'd rather go the other direction.
I figured.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I said, like, let's just tackle it first, and we may end up in agreement or disagreement, but then we'll get through.
We'll prepare a draft resolution for you to consider.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, city manager.
Item 11A is consideration and approval of a task order and budget amendment 2026-0512.2 for Kimley Horn and Associates to complete a feasibility study for a transfer station in the amount of $95,000.00. As background information, the City Environmental Services Division of the Public Works Department currently makes multiple trips a day per vehicle to Stillfield landfill to dump collected waste and debris. This is over 50 miles round trip each time a truck must be emptied. A transfer station may be more feasible solution to save money for the city and increase our efficiency of the Environmental Services Division. A transfer station could also provide a local dump location for citizens. The study would look at possible locations, rate impacts, and benefits to other municipalities in the area, as well as private haulers. Staff recommendation today through the Director of Public Works is that the Commission approve this request and the accompanying budget amendment resolution. Mr. Mayor?
I will entertain a motion.
A motion to approve?
I'll second to talk about it.
Discussion.
I have a question. So if I recall, and this is my memory, this is way, way back, somebody had told me there was some study done on an actual, like, garbage, like landfill kind of thing. Is that true? Or was that just like somebody's?
I've heard that
conceptual?
too, but
So,
I don't know the specifics. We'd have to kind of dig into that a little bit more. So that's sometimes why I don't try to answer questions up here because I vaguely remember and I don't want to state incorrect information.
So my question is, why do we got to pay somebody $95,000 to tell us if we need a transfer station? Where it's going to go, what the economic, I can tell you, we're going to drive 50 miles, that doesn't make sense. That's
I
a
can
waste
tell
of
you
money.
why.
We can spend $95,000 somewhere else.
I can tell you why we have to.
Because so we can blame them when it doesn't work out.
No, it's because you get into this seat and you that's one of the things. It was one of my first criticisms. Like, why do we have to study? Why do we have to pay people to study this stuff? And we don't.
You're
Unless
right. We don't need a transfer station.
unless you want to buy it with dollars outside of our general fund. In which case, virtually every grant and every funding source outside of ad valorem tax dollars requires a study.
Oh, no.
So,
And CEI and CA and administrative costs and all these wonderful government programs.
If you want to try to do it out of all of the money that is here within Panama City, then we don't have to pay for the study. We just do whatever we want to do. But if you want to use dollars that are outside of Panama City, or you at least don't want to be handcuffed $2 inside of Panama City, then I think it's worth the $95,000.
The question I have in light of the discussion that we had earlier in this meeting about the parcel adjacent to it is if we determine that that's the transfer station, what impact does that have on our ability to sell the other piece of property or get highest and best use?
Exactly right. It's a lot of 50-mile drives to get to 95 grand, and then the cost of building that transfer station. We're way ahead by driving every day.
One truck being down is worth, it has a higher cost value than $95,000.
What?
One truck.
Mean
So-
what?
So these trucks are driving just like everybody else
Just like
in
every
the
other
county.
garbage truck in town.
Every other garbage
Okay.
truck in town, absolutely.
They need a transfer station. That's what we do.
Correct. So you don't see the value in that?
No.
You have
If
no.
everybody else doesn't see the value in it, why should Panama City?
So-
Why does everybody else got to do it, not us?
Stacy, come on down.
Yeah, come on down,
I
Stacy.
don't disagree. I mean, my point isn't Commissioner Hughes's point. It's about, can this study incorporate what impact potential for the 37 acres next to it?
Well, and I think, Robbie, you kind of touched on in the first budgetary meeting, which was if staff has ideas on ways we spend money to then recoup money, we want those ideas. So staff brought us this idea of spending money to potentially save us long-term money, which is what they did with the asphalt the standing up, which is, can you do more? You said this to me, budget doesn't matter.
But it's not. It's costing us money.
But you said it in the budget meeting.
Yeah.
Money doesn't matter. Bring us ideas to save us money long-term. And that's what they've done.
So this could be a
And
money
then you reprimand them.
generator
You can't
long
reprimand them when you ask them something.
I said on a wish list. I didn't mean.
This is their wish list.
So
They're asking us to vote on it right now, and I wasn't even going to vote on it.
No, I think they're
Transfer
saying,
stations
on the wish list, we don't want to make reckless decisions. We need a study so then we can fund it, and that's what they've asked, so.
And transfer stations can actually generate money.
Yeah, and I've never done a transfer
Because-
station before.
Because all the other trash services in town that don't have the same resources that we do will wind up using our transfer station, of which we will wind up charging them for.
Yes, tell us about transfer stations.
So,
Yeah, we've
Okay.
actually gotten a lot of interest from private haulers saying, please do this, because
Name and title, please, for the
we're,
public.
yeah, I think Shane, I don't know, he's not here, but Shane had gotten some people that had heard this was going to be on a commission meeting. They said, please do. Right now, every private hauler and every municipality, like Lynn Haven, that has their own solid waste program, has to take their trash to Steelfield landfill, or I think that there's some construction and hazardous that goes to Port St. Joe. And a lot of people choose to take it to Port St. Joe because it is very well maintained. They don't have as many nails in their tires. That's what I've been hearing from the private haulers. Now, there's actually a whole semester in one of my classes in college where we talked about transfer stations and the feasibility of them. Really, when they become feasible is when there is a certain distance from your city center to your landfill. So whenever you get to where you're driving every single truck to the landfill, it then becomes cheaper instead to have smaller local trucks that then take all their waste to the transfer station, and you put that trash into larger trucks that then drive it to the landfill. So you have less trips to the landfill, hauling more waste, and then you have your local trucks just staying within city limits. So instead of every truck having to go every time they're full all the way to the landfill at Steelfield, which is where we take it right now, which I want to say is like 30-something miles away. When I called around to other counties, I actually have visited Alachua County's transfer station many years ago. When I called them and asked them what their study showed, they were like, oh yeah, we were driving something like 14 miles to the landfill. They were like, it was just unsustainable. They're like, how far are you driving? I'm like, over 30 miles. And they're like, and you don't have a transfer station? Y'all have never had one? They were floored, just absolutely floored that we were driving that much every single day. Their transfer station is used for citizens to come and drop waste, kind of like the county has a Bayline Drive one where you can drop household waste. If you have like large trailers full of waste or appliances, you have to take it to Steelfield. So we could have that as well, where households, when they're doing their spring cleaning. If it's more than they could put out on the curb, they could take it to the transfer station. They would just have to pay a tipping fee. We could have private haulers drop at the transfer station. They would pay a tipping fee. So what this study will show is, what will it do to our rates? Will it reduce our rates? Will we be able to lower our trash rates for our citizens by having these private haulers utilize this transfer station and having our drivers not have to drive so far? It will also analyze multiple sites that we've identified, some city-owned, some not city-owned, to see if which sites would be feasible based on size, based on location. And then it'll also look at what that transfer station could be used for. Could it be used for just household waste? Could we have like a hazardous waste station? And so on. There's a bunch of different avenues that we can look at. It could just be a very basic transfer station. It could offer a couple of other avenues for us to allow our citizens to do yard debris, to come and drop off appliances, batteries, all that kind of stuff.
So two things. If everybody's going to benefit, then why doesn't everybody pay for it?
They will.
Let's get the
Yes,
county,
they
the
will.
cities. No. Let's go ahead and get them up front. Let's go ahead and get them up front to pay for the study. Okay? That way everybody's going to benefit from it. And then two, didn't we have a thing called the incinerator that everybody got to use? And it worked so well that it went out of business.
No, we did have an incinerator.
Right, and we had to get rid of it.
The county had one.
The county had one.
Correct. The county had an incinerator. It was damaged severely after Hurricane Michael. Years after Hurricane Michael, it spent more time down than it spent up, and that's the county's decision to close that operation.
Did it ever make money? Never?
The county would have to ask.
Well, he was the county attorney at the time, I think, that's why I was asking.
Or you asking
Was it
me?
Yeah, was it profitable? Was it profitable?
As profitable as a landfill is.
There you
I
go.
mean, seriously, it's a sunk cost. But
Okay.
yes, there was a hope that there would be, it's a different model. I've spent many, many years of my life dealing with resource recovery facilities and power company contracts and the environmental agencies that really encourage the county to get into that. Obviously, when electricity prices fall, then you don't make the money that you were hoping to make to offset the other cost of paying for it. So it was constructed, just real quick, in around 1986, and so it lasted a number of decades, and then it ultimately, the decision was made that it didn't make sense to continue.
No,
So
to
the city,
Lucas's point.
yeah, and the city had a transfer station years ago. And then they made a decision not to, before my time as city attorney, but they made a decision to shut the transfer station down at some point in time, but it was 20, 25 years ago or more.
If I
that
could add on
was
to that
made.
as well. So once the county made the decision to shutter the transfer station, they lowered their tipping fees rates, and their rate consultant did an analysis on all the other municipal haulers. And they told us, we've lowered our tipping fees so you guys can buy 2 more trucks with the savings and add 2 more drivers based on your expenses, because we know that the windshield time is going to increase your route speeds in order to maintain your schedule. So it did take us, when that happened, we did have to budget for 2 additional vehicles and 2 additional operators for our residential garbage.
And I just heard Stacy say we're going to have to buy some smaller trucks to stay in town, so automatically it's costing more money. But since that closed, let me tell you what happened up near the incinerator. You know what's happening? Development. Okay, so to your point,
Yeah, I was wrong, though.
the transfer station, what's around it, I know there's not 37 acres, but what's around it won't develop, okay? And so you have a template on 231 of what happened. No development, incinerator. It closes, now you have 3 subdivisions going on. So just consider the template of what has happened, the cost of money that we don't need to spend on this, and if everybody's going to participate, why don't we go to everybody and ask them to participate?
Billsman went in when the incinerator was still operating.
So-
Billsman?
Billsman was not.
Yeah, it was started.
No, that's south of there. Go look, there was a mobile home subdivision up there, and that was it, up by the incinerator.
So I kind of agree with 2 points here. Is one, like I'm in favor of going forward with the study, but I do think we need to include the county in this discussion. Partially because if we're starting to take private haulers, I don't know if they charge a different rate to private haulers, and then we would ultimately being in conflict with the rates. I don't want to get it. They were incredibly gracious to us after the close of the incinerator. I would hate for us to, feel like we're in competition with something. So I think Robbie's point's valid of just including them in the process. They don't necessarily have to put money towards the process, but at least keeping them involved in that. And the other thing is, I know someone has talked to me in some meetings about a waste facility or something like that. If we could get whatever information has already been studied on this factor, just shared with all of us. Because I know sometimes you guys take action on things we don't know about.
I was just going to let you think that it happened, but then wonder if it did happen.
Thank you. You may know.
I know that it was discussed. I don't know that a consultant was hired, but I do have some information on it. But what was discussed was actually siting another landfill in eastern Bay County that would service all of the eastern cities, and whether or not that made sense. I don't believe it was ever studied, but I know that there was discussion when City Manager Mark McQueen was here. There was discussion about it. So I'll look back and see.
And just bringing everybody together.
Right.
Like
that was,
like as far as that goes.
but that was, it wasn't a transfer station, it was actually another landfill that had been discussed.
So I'll add, if we're what I want to see is a KPIs of success in this initiative. It would be like, not just here's locations, it's here's how much we would take on from other people, here's how much it would cost us to haul it, and here would be the return. So that way we have a way to judge. Is this kind of what we do with the asphalt crew, which is estimates of cost and estimates of production. And that would be my concerns. So that we're always monitoring those things.
Yes, the task order is very detailed, exactly how many sites they're going to look at, exactly what measurements they're going to look at, what they're going to include. They're going to include pretty much everything that you've said and more.
What I would like to avoid is like, we go and do something and then all of a sudden the county's like, well, you guys are taking private trash, so now you got to charge this fee because
It
it's
will
a mix.
still
and
be
those kind of
going
things.
to the landfill, so we'll still.
But the tipping fee may be different.
Right, well, yeah, I mean, we can talk to them, but essentially, we'll still have to pay the tipping fee at the landfill. The savings is in less trips to the landfill. So you may have to pay a tipping fee at the city that would cover us having to transfer it to the county landfill and our costs at the transfer station. So our tipping fees would be higher to cover that cost that we're gonna have to pay at the county landfill. But it's going to be cheaper for people to go to the transfer station because they're not having to drive to the landfill. You're not having the vehicle maintenance, the gas, the employee time.
And the county may want to collaborate with us further, maybe even on unincorporated Bay County property. That would be a more central location for all the communities. And so all the other cities might be very excited about this, but not at the burden of our taxpayer. That's the biggest concern.
Exactly.
So, any other discussion? We have a first and a second?
Yes.
Please call the roll.
We do. All right, Commissioner Hughes?
No.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
I believe there's a budget amendment. Resolution number 2020-60512.2, a resolution providing for the amendment of the approved fiscal year 25-26 budget to utilize Environmental Services Fund reserves for a transfer station feasibility study.
Item 11C is discussion and consideration of the Adopt a Park program through the Parks, Culture, and Recreation Department to assist with the maintenance and beautification of the City of Panama City Parks. As background information, the Adopt a Park program is designed to promote community involvement to assist with maintaining and beautifying the City of Panama City and our parks. The program also encourages the community to assist with the safety of parks by reporting potential hazards, vandalism, and general park needs. It allows residents, organizations, and businesses to become stewards of local parks to improve park quality through collaboration activities and investment. Staff presented the Adopt a Park program to the Commission on April 28th of this year. No action was taken to allow for inclusion of recommendations from the community members and elected officials alike. Several of these recommendations have been incorporated into the attached updated version of the program. Attachments include the Adopt a Park program description, application, and agreement. Staff recommendation to the Director of Parks, Culture, and Recreation is that the Commission approve the Adopt a Park program to be implemented through the Parks, Culture, and Recreation Department. Mr. Mayor?
I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, item 11D was moved to 5:26 meeting, so we're moving on to 11E, which is just our monthly staff report, sharing the information and just some of the performance metrics over our departments for the month of March 2026. We do include this the first meeting of every month. At least one of the elected officials has requested, maybe consider taking it off the agenda and instead just email it. So I just put that forward for y'all's discussion today, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, any desire of the commission to remove this from the meeting to either a virtual workshop, just maybe it's the first 5 minutes of a virtual workshop, or just an email?
I don't see a reason why not change. Why change?
To have better discussion?
I'm fine with it, as long as it is presented to the public in some way. I'd rather it not go to an email, but I'd rather it
Consent agenda, maybe?
either consent or be placed on a virtual. I'm fine with a virtual workshop. I mean, as long as it's just presented in some.
I just want to make sure the public gets to see all this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same.
and we
same.
asked for it.
That's what I'm saying.
Virtual, we talk about it, I guess.
Yeah.
more.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still up there, and it's
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But I think if we move it to virtual, then we can essentially, over time, it just doesn't get consistent. So if we treat this as just a monthly report that's on that consent agenda.
I like reading about it.
Yeah, one of the reasons we put it at the end, and this is probably a conversation with the mayor, but it also gives the opportunity if there's a particular project where you're like, hey, Jonathan, can you and your team, or Nevin, can you and your team bring back at, the next meeting or the first month of the next meeting, and give us a more detailed update on X or something like that. So it does give that opportunity during this time, but I mean, putting it under consent, you could always reserve that right as well.
I'm good for it staying on our agenda. Business meeting, it's the business of the city. And staying where it is, I offer the consent agenda as a compromise.
I can support either one. I do want us to make sure we do a deep dive in this at the very end of the fiscal year. So we have a benchmark for next year.
Or what?
A benchmark.
For next year.
Because then we'll know how many miles of this, how many miles of that, what we all did. So it's a good
There'll be somebody
tool.
watching, you promise.
And maybe we should spend more time discussing. If we are going to spend more time discussing, I do think the virtual is the best place for it.
I agree.
In that regard.
I agree.
If we're just putting it out there as informational purposes, that is one thing. But if it's actually something we're going to discuss, I think virtual is the best.
Yep, I
conduit
love
for that.
both and. So if it's on the agenda in one form or another, then we can request more discussion at a virtual meeting. But I think if we move it to virtual, it virtually disappears because those agenda items are less structured and have program topics that change unless,
The communications team is actually planning to start putting this in the monthly e-newsletter as well.
Cool, any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to clarify something.
Please do.
Just take a second. This goes back to the transfer station. I made a statement that the city had a transfer station. There was a transfer station in the city, and it was located next to the police department. But I believe in reflecting, it was the county that ran that transfer station. And when the resource recovery facility was built, they shut down the transfer station, and the property had been, I believe it was owned by the city, and they had allowed, obviously, the county to use it, and the county gave it back. So didn't want to leave the impression that the city actually operated the transfer station. I'm pretty certain the county did. So that's, just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then just a point, we talked earlier about the Environmental Services Fund, and I just took a closer look at its budget. I don't know that we're going to have the surplus in that fund to move to reserve.
You're looking at the current year's budget, revenues versus expenditures, but there are funds in the reserves for that fund, the cash, that's not
different budget.
reflected in.
Which I think is somewhere around $4 million.
That's why we
if I
needed a
recall.
budget amendment to move the money from the cash reserve
Oh,
and
right.
to put it into this year's budget.
Thank you. I said correct.
One of your colleagues asked that question. I mean, normally this would be under my threshold, but the budget amendment is a specific reason why that task order came to y'all today, ma'am.
All right.
If we're moving on, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Saturday night. We were over